What is that?
Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. And already was talking some stuff like that. How you doing, everybody? Welcome to my YouTube channel, back up and running. We haven't been up for about 4 or 5 days. How are all you guys doing in the live chat there? It's good to see you. Like I said, been away for a couple of days, and we are coming to you now. You can tell from looking behind me that things don't look normal. Ann and I have moved. Today was our moving day. This day is our moving day. And we just moved. Literally, the movers just left here about 20 minutes ago. The movers just left about 20 minutes ago. So as you can see, I don't have everything all together here. We don't have, the studio's not completely set up yet, but we are up and ready to go to at least do a little live video tonight to talk about WandaVision episode 4, which was so good. And I'm not alone, at least for a little bit, because I'm joined, of course, by the better Campea, as she refers to herself. Ann Campea is here. Ann, how you doing, baby?
Hi, everyone. I am still getting used to the sounds of this neighborhood, which is what you heard me say earlier.
Yes,
but nice to see everybody.
We are out in Riverside County now. Moved about an hour outside of LA. We are in our new house right now. So anyway, it is great to have you. And 100% Campea is here to start dishing on things. So here's what we're gonna do, guys. For the first part of this video, we're gonna talk about. Obviously, Ann and I are going to talk about our thoughts on episode 4, which we watched at midnight, then continued packing till about 2:30 in the morning, and then watched WandaVision again, and then finally fell asleep around 3:30, got up at 6:30 for the movers. I'm operating on about 3 hours of sleep, in case you can't tell. But anyway, we had to talk about this damn episode. So let's talk about WandaVision 1. And then what we'll do in the second part is we will just take your live comments, questions, theories, all the things you guys have already started sending them in. Just use the super chat feature if you want to do that, and we will get to that tonight. And listen, guys, I'm going to tell you right now, buckle in, because I think this is going to be a 3 or 4 hour the thing tonight. If I'm guessing anything by the number of chats that have already come in, I think we're buckling in for a 3 or 4 hour marathon here today, and I'm on 3 hours sleep, and I don't care because it's WandaVision episode 4, which absolutely blew my mind. Okay, so let me start with this. What a beginning. What a way to start an episode. Because what they easily could have done is started off with, oh, look, here's life at the hospital, and everybody's walking around doing their thing, and this is what most shows would have done. And they would have done, oh, here, we'll follow a nurse around as she's checking in on her patients, and it'll be about, a minute and 30 seconds of this, setting the scene. And then all of a sudden, the dusting effect happens, and all of a sudden, people start reappearing. But instead, they started off with, boom, the dusting or the de-dusting, whatever you want. Like the opening shot is literally her coming back, Monica coming back. And like, I remember we were laying in bed, honey, and we were watching this because the only TV left in our house was in our bedroom at that point. But we were laying there and I'm like, as soon as we hit play, I'm like, that's how they're starting. It was like such a good way. Were you cluing in and kind of tuning in with what they were doing at that point?
Yeah, I mean, but it just made sense that they needed to go there to kick off the episode. Just a little bit of explanation. What was that opening scene? Maybe, I don't know, 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Just to for those that aren't, maybe caught up on the universe, it reminds you of what happened and kind of the timing of events and things like that. So hopefully it actually helps clarify some of the questions that folks might have had of like why we are at this point of time.
Yes. And look, and let me say something in general here about this episode, okay? Let me say something in general about this episode. So let me just say, I have really appreciated the first 3 episodes, right? There are a lot of people, and it's all subjective, and if you didn't like the first 3 episodes, that's totally cool. No problem. That's totally great. But get out of my face with that, because I thought the first 3 episodes were actually really charming and cute And like, oh, cute's a dirty word. Get out of here. No, cute's adorable. It was charming and cute and original and fresh and a total departure from everything the MCU has already done. But oh my God, in only the way that Kevin Feige can do it. It was all set up. It was all set up for episode 4. It's all Wanda. It's all Wanda. This thing in a split second turned from being a charming little comedy to being a horror show, like straight up gasping horror, like just complete horror. And like that. And I'll tell you what, if this show had started with this episode, it would have been, ooh, creepy. But because they started the show with WandaVision, because they started with the 1950s kind of chat and charm of all that kind of stuff, it's because they started with all that when this freight train of Wanda Maximoff in her complete psycho horror mode comes out of nowhere like a train and smashes you in the face with you are a trespasser, and boom, she's gone. And then like even Vision's face looks like he's pretty freaked out by her and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, sorry, I could just go rambling about this one for a long time, honey. What were your general perceptions, your general feelings on this episode?
I 100% told you guys
100%.
that episode 4 would be the time that we go to the other side, the other perspective of what's going on. And it absolutely delivered on everything I was expecting in terms of putting together all the pieces and the Easter eggs that we thought we were seeing in each of the episodes and helping us to understand what was actually going on. I love that scene with, and I'm going to call them by their actual names because I forget what their names are in the show, Kat Dennings and Randall Park scene.
Oh, yeah.
Agent Wu. As they're trying to tap into the radio and tap into the other devices that are in the world. I love that they explain the helicopter. So we get all of the explanations we were waiting for in one episode. We finally clarify that Wanda 100% is in control, that there are folks missing from this, what is a real town of Westfield, but she's trying to mask it as if the town doesn't exist and has everybody kind of brainwashed to think that they live in this town. So there's a lot of things that were happening, that a lot of clarity that was brought to our attention, but also a lot of things that are still left unsaid. I think Randall Park had that whiteboard where there was so many questions still written on the board that we still had to answer.
He was the avatar for all of the other fans.
Yeah.
It was funny because he's literally writing out all the questions that all of us have been asking.
All of us are thinking about.
Because you said that too. It's like, he's writing out the questions that people were writing in and asking on the show. It's like, yes, they are. They're completely writing. He's writing out the questions. By the way, did you notice? I don't know if you know. I didn't notice until the second time we watched it. But when Monica shows up to Westview at the first, and Agent Wu is there, Randall Park is there, and he comes walking up. When he gives her his card, he does it as the card trick that Ant-Man taught him in Ant-Man 2.
Oh, so cute.
He goes, and then pulls it out. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but it's the same card trick that Scott taught him earlier, and all that kind of stuff.
It's one of those things too where we knew this episode was coming. We knew these reveals were coming, but it still had that much impact. I think it was still very much impactful. It was like, oh, that's so cool. Everything that they were revealing kind of from the other side of the lens, or however you want to say it. It was really cool. And the other thing I would say is, did we get less episodes than the characters that are in this world that may have more episodes of WandaVision happening? I think that's the one question I had about, hey, they had more episodes of like the 1950s and the 1960s and 70s than we only got one episode that we got to see, but they make you think that the characters in this world that are seeing Wanda's vision got many more episodes in this sitcom than we got to see, which is cool.
One of the big questions that came out from this episode was a question that Monica Rambo brings up at first. How come everybody around here has had Westview wiped out of their memories, and how come the rest of us hasn't? Is it a distance thing? Like, is it a proximity thing? Maybe they could do that. By the way, I wanted to bring this up too. Did you notice that as they were doing the whole thing, first of all, Kat Dennings is adorable in this. I loved her in this. I like Kat Dennings also. But just what? I'm invested. I love that. So did you notice that as they were pulling together the dossiers on all the people who are trapped in town, did you notice the one they didn't do?
Yeah.
Agnes.
Agnes, yeah.
There was no dossier for Agnes.
Right.
No Catherine Hahn dossier.
Yep.
What's that all about?
Yep.
I just,
But again, all real people, right? Like we were trying to figure out whether these were just figments of her imagination. She's created the entire town and the people, but these are all real people now that are characters in the sitcom, confirmed.
Yep. And by the way, Leandro Urena just sent a super chat badge in the live chat. Thanks for that, Leandro. Appreciate that. So that is another big open question that we're going to have, like, where it's. But here's the thing, though. Wanda says, or Monica says at the end, it's all Wanda. Wanda's doing all of this. Apparently confirming our theories and suspicions that this is going to end first of all, we've been saying it, this is going to end very badly. This whole series is going to end very, very badly. I still believe that. But it's all Wanda seemed to come a little bit early. There's still 5 episodes to go. There could be some more. I'm still not saying, I still have not bought into Mephisto. I've still not bought into it. But I had a lot of people writing to me today saying, oh, wow, John, people saying who were really all on the Mephisto thing saying, I guess I was wrong about Mephisto. I guess it's not Mephisto. And I had a lot of people writing to me saying, oh, I was wrong. It's not Mephisto. And I would say, well, actually, wait a second. I still don't think it's Mephisto. But just because she said it's all Wanda right now doesn't necessarily mean you were wrong thinking it was Mephisto. I think Mephisto, while I am not buying into it yet, I still think that's a card on the table. I still think that's a card on the table here. So I don't know. And you see the end. Monica says it's all Wanda. Is that now it? We now know it is all Wanda, and the rest of the show is going to be everybody else trying to figure out how to deal with it. Or do you think we could find out there's another person behind this? What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I believe it is also all Wanda, but Monica, she only had that interaction with Wanda to be able to make that inference. So maybe she didn't spend enough time in the town. I don't know. I don't know. But I feel like Wanda's so powerful. I feel like this is all of her doing. What I'm afraid is going to happen is she snaps out of it or wakes up or whatever, and you have like a dead, very, very dead Vision body that's like laid to rest in this town, which is really, I feel so bad for her just thinking about that.
Can we talk about that shot for a second?
Yeah.
As she looks up and sees, I don't shock. I don't, like, I can be surprised in movies and TV shows. I don't shock. I was shocked when as he came in, Wanda, where's Geraldine? She turns around and she sees the paled, glassy-eyed, stone ripped out of his head Vision, and is like, that took a real dark turn, real quick. So it raises an interesting question. Was that okay? Want to hear how dark this gets, baby? Here's how dark. If you really want to go there, here's how dark this potentially gets. Is this just, has she just created a manifestation of Vision, to heal her own pain and to deal with her own pain. And just for a second, she remembered he's dead. And that's why you saw him all glassy eyed and head ripped out. Or, and here's where it gets really twisted. Does she actually have the corpse of Vision, and she is reanimating his corpse and getting all necrophilia with Vision? Because remember, it's like, Wanda, darling, yes, Vision, get the light. Okay, you stone cold dead corpse, you. That's hot. Like, I don't know. Like, again, this thing can get really dark really, really fast. But I tend to think it's just an imagining of Vision. I don't think she actually has. I don't think she actually has the corpse, and she's just. I think she's just. I don't know. How do you see that? Is it an actual reanimated body? Did she get Vision's body, or like 5 years later after she come back from the snap, or is it just a new manifestation of Vision? What do you think?
I don't know. I don't know. I think I'm gonna say she has his body. I think she has I think she has it. What else would you have done with it?
Remember,
maybe to bury it or whatever, but
he died 5 years before she came back.
Yeah.
After the snap, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I still think.
But he doesn't decompose. He's not a
That's
human.
true.
He's not human.
Well, there's a little bit of biological material to him, right? So
Sure.
I don't know. That's a good point. But so remember last week I said, I think what's going to happen here is that it turns out Wanda is the villain. And that's going to lead us into Doctor Strange 2. And I think she's going to be the antagonist for Doctor Strange 2. But I said, I think who your protagonist is actually going to be is Vision. I think now what could happen is the rest of the show is about Vision figuring this all out. Because we saw a little bit of that in the commercials, right? Where Vision is like floating over the city. He's talking to Agnes.
Sure.
I think he's just going to start. I mean, we already saw that, right? We already saw him starting to put the pieces of the puzzle together. So I don't know. It just, and then again, all the sword stuff was great. Getting the background of Monica's mom, and I can't remember Monica's mom's name. What was it? Maria. Getting Maria, who was, of course, in Captain Marvel. And there was, of course, a little Captain Marvel reference there. She's talking to the director of Sword, saying the universe is filled with enemies. And she says, and allies. There's a little bit of a Captain Marvel reference there. So, yeah. Anyway, I just think it sounds really good. So where do you think episode 5 is going to take us? When you think about episode 5, the very next episode, what do you think is going to happen next?
Well, they still have to do the 80s. So I do think we need 80s. I feel like they're still going to continue the sitcom by decade. But I love this idea that you just put in my head about like the next few episodes are actually going to be more heavily focused on Vision figuring it out. I kind of love that, just to get his perspective on what's going on. I don't know how much more they need to play into heavily the sitcom piece of it, because now we've got both sides, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a little bit more balanced between what's happening in reality and what's happening in Wanda's reality.
I agree. And by the way, did you guys catch right near the end, as her and Vision are standing there, they got the babies, and she goes, "Don't worry, darling, have everything under control." And then she says, "So what shall we watch tonight?" The camera's on her, and she says, "What should we watch tonight?" And she walks by the camera, and we see the back of Vision's head. And so Vision then turns towards the camera, and he looks mightily concerned, and then puts on this fake smile. It's like, dude, after seeing the Vision corpse, I didn't know how this could get more creepy, and it just got more creepy. And then even as they're sitting down, as the credits start to roll, he goes back and forth between and like, oh my God. So you can totally see it start to sink in. And again, I want to reaffirm this again. The first 3 episodes were not throwaway. The first 3 episodes were charming and entertaining, different, unique, totally out of left field for something totally original for Marvel to do. And it was great. But the impact that episode 4 had wouldn't have been anywhere near as big if it wasn't for that setup. That setup, the way it was done, is what made the Vision thing, the Vision corpse thing, all of a sudden like massive this, and the darkness that Wanda starts creating, and the way she's speaking to Monica.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is she? You are trespasser. I don't want you here. You get out. It's like, oh, she's like laying down the gauntlet.
Yeah.
And then and by the way, that would have killed her. Blowing her through a brick wall, that would have killed Monica. She's not a superhero, but whatever. I'm just giddy about it. I've really enjoyed WandaVision up until episode 4, but I wasn't as in love with it as say you were.
Mm-hmm.
But I was really liking it. I was really enjoying it. That episode last night, like out of all first 3 episodes, we never finished and had me go, I need to watch it again right away.
Sure.
But last night it was like, I got to watch it again right away.
Yeah.
It was kind of crazy. Anyway, guys, that's kind of our thoughts on this. Now, Anne wanted to get back to unpacking us, but you got a few minutes still to hang around and take some questions?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, Anne's going to take some questions with us. So let's get on over, guys. We're going to spend the rest of our time now hearing from you guys, hearing what you guys have to say, and let's get over to it. We're going to start things here with Unbeatable, who writes, "Makes me wonder if Monica is going to somehow inherit some of her Captain Marvel powers during the end of the series, making her a new main MCU character." Well, I think they have kind of, I think Kevin Feige implied before that they could be looking at, that we will be looking at Monica becoming a mainstay character. And obviously, if you know the background in the comics and stuff like that. So I don't know if they're going to do that in WandaVision. I don't know if they're going to go there yet in WandaVision, but I do believe that's something that's coming. All right, Jace Little writes, do you think any MCU characters make an appearance in the show besides the ones they let us know? Well, we knew that Kat Dennings was coming.
Yep.
We knew that Randall Park was coming as Agent Wu.
Yep.
The question becomes, there's some people speculating that Doctor Strange is going to show up at the end. I hesitate about that one because Doctor Strange isn't the next movie in the story. Spider-Man 3 is the next movie in the story. Some people speculating that maybe we get Jamie Foxx as Electro show up. Mm-hmm. If you want to connect the dots with Monica, maybe Captain Marvel shows up. I don't know. Anne, what do you think the chances are that another major character shows up? And if so, who do you think it could be?
I think there's like a 48% chance. We're not going 100% this time. 48% chance.
Where's 100%?
Another, big like Avenger shows up in the show. You already have two of the biggest ones in the show already. So
yeah, you got two Avengers in there.
I don't know. I think I'm gonna lean towards under 50%, and I will say I like the odds of maybe Captain Marvel, just from the connection that she would have. It's not too far off.
By the way, again, did you notice the little meta moment in the episode when they're all gathered around Kat Dennings and they're realizing what's happening, and somebody says, are they really making a sitcom with two Avengers? That was kind of a meta moment. I kind of expected when they said that line for all of them to turn to the camera and go, almost something like that. Okay, let's go to the next one. That was Jace Little. Next one up is Iconic Reactions writes, so, a dead Vision randomly showing up at the end was nightmare fuel to my eyes, but too well done. You can tell Wanda is slowly losing control, but still testing her limits. Also, Elizabeth is fine as hell. Yeah, Elizabeth Olsen is beautiful. But here's the thing. We're not seeing Wanda going mad. She's gone mad. Mm-hmm. Like, she's broken. Again, I refer back to that headline article in The Atlantic that described WandaVision as a tragic story of a woman desperately trying to deal with her grief. That's what WandaVision is. And if you want to see when she went mad, go back to Endgame as she starts walking towards Thanos and says, you took everything from me. It wasn't just the words. Listen to how she says it.
Yeah.
That was a broken person. And then later in Endgame, at Tony's funeral, as she's talking to Hawkeye, you can tell she's not well. Like, she's not right. And again, I don't think we see her going mad. I think when she starts turning on Monica, I feel like that's when you're seeing her as she really is right now. The facade and the veneer drops when her illusion is being challenged. And then you see her as she really is right now. And that's kind of scary. So I don't know. Do you think we could see her descending more into that? Or do you think we're going to see her maybe being more normal moving forward? What do you think?
I don't know what's going to snap her out of it, with the exception of Vision coming back to life. I can't see what would take her out of that. There's just too much tragedy in her life. So, I think she's just going to sink further and further into this.
Which is a chilling. It's a chilling prospect. Okay. Next up, we have K Major writes, so how scary is Wanda getting? Super scary. Seriously, characters like this are far more frightening to me than the mustache twirling, mwahaha, I am evil and I'm going to steal your baby. Mwahaha. It's the juxtaposition of the 50s sitcom with that totally dark turn. I've got it all under control. Like, it's to answer your question, K Major, it's really getting really scary. It's getting really scary. K Major also writes, the MCU has its stinkers, but damn, when they hit hard. Was not expecting dead Vision. Like, holy crap. And what happened to the beekeeper? I mean, I was waiting for that because we knew, because of the commercial, that Monica gets blown out of Westview at one point, because we saw it in the trailer. So I was kind of expecting, oh God, and how 1990s horror movie was that? When they show the camera from the beekeeper's point of view, and you see in black and white these two figures, Wanda, darling, no. I expected to see him explode or also be thrown, but they didn't show him getting thrown out, which leads me to believe something horrible happened. I don't know. Do you think she just threw the beekeeper out, or do you think she did something darker to the beekeeper?
I don't know. I actually don't know. Or was it just not relevant to what's happening? We just make that assumption he got thrown out of the world.
Right. But do you notice they never mentioned, by the way, I want to throw this out there. The name of the beekeeper, the name of the agent that they sent down into the tunnel to go through, his name was Agent Franklin. And I will admit that the moment they said that name, my first reaction was, for those of you who don't know, Reed Richards and Sue Storms of the Fantastic Four, their child name is Franklin Richards, who basically in Marvel terms, with maybe a couple of very, very few exceptions, becomes the most powerful being in all of the Marvel universe, with a couple of exceptions. And so once they said Agent Franklin, I'm like, oh my God, is that Frank? Oh no, of course, because you don't refer to an agent by their first name. It's not Agent Ann, it's Agent Campea. That's what they would say. So it's okay. So I suppose it's not connected. Okay. Let's move on here. Next up. Who is that? That was, next up is also K Major, who writes, by the way, congrats on the new house. Thank you so much. We will give you a tour soon. John and Ann, how crazy was the beginning with everyone returning from the blip? Guess that name is sticking, pure and utter chaos. Oh, I don't care. Kevin Feige can call it the blip all he wants. To me, it's the snap. I don't care. They can run around in the middle of the night and tattoo the word blip on all MCU fans' foreheads. I don't care. I'm not calling it the blip. That's a stupid name. But whatever. It was great. It was great to see the chaos unfolding. And you pointed out it was really reminiscent of that Spider-Man movie when everybody started coming back as well.
Sure.
But doing it in a hospital.
Yeah.
Was like adding, because you have now patients reappearing.
Right.
And all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, how freaky.
And by the way, and they introduced that really sad, the way Maria Rambo died. Like to find out she had beat cancer and her daughter was with her, and only to find out that 2 years later.
Oh, heartbreaking.
It was heartbreaking.
And you had to do I had to do the math in my head. I'm like, okay, so blah, blah, blah. Okay, got it. You know, like it gives you a context to when everything's happening. But yeah, really, really sad.
Okay, let's move on here. Next up, we have Benjamin GL, who tips in $50. Thank you, Benjamin, for supporting the channel on that level, man. And Benjamin GL writes, guess it's not the Marvel fake death universe after all. It's going how I thought. Ends with Viz becoming Ultron. Ooh, you think Vision becomes actually, there's a little bit. I mean, if you go back and watch Ultron, there is a little bit of info that may point us towards that. But wasn't expecting Dead Vision to hit me as hard as it did. Have been fighting with girlfriend, and show was helping us, so it hit extra hard. It's always good. Marvel Cinematic Universe bringing relationships back together. To me, it's still the fake death universe. Because you can say all you want. Well, it's not actually Loki. It's Loki from a different timeline. It's Loki. Well, it's not actually Gamora coming back. It's the Gamora from this other alternate time. It's Gamora. And yeah, you can say, well, it's just a different manifestation. It's Vision. It's still Vision. Like, if Vision is dead, that means Vision can't be in the show anymore, period. But so to me, it's still the fake death universe. But I completely agree. The impact of it was crazy because they set it up, honey, to feel like the show just doesn't feel, if you watch it up to this point, the show just doesn't feel like you're about to see a corpse. Like you're about to see the dead body of one of the Avengers who died twice. And it just kind of hits you that way. When that happened in the show, we already got the creepiness of it. She had already thrown Monica out. So there had already been the dark turn. But do you feel that despite the fact that they already showed us it was turning dark, that were you still significantly startled when it just suddenly cut to Vision and Vision was in the thing? Or what was your reaction to that?
Well, of course. Yeah, of course it was startling. I think that you just didn't expect it. And then to have that image, in your head of, okay, so well, she's already imagining this, and then have it kind of confirmed in a visual, in that type of visual. Yeah, it was pretty freaky.
All right, let's keep moving on here. And Benjamin, again, MCU bringing relationships together. It's a beautiful thing. Let that be a lesson to all of you guys out there. Hitting a little rough patch, just sit down and watch some MCU with your significant other, and everything will be okay. You have my personal guarantee. By the way, do not take any romantic relationship advice from me. I'm just throwing that out there. No. And confirms that. Anyway, thanks again, Benjamin, for sending that in, man. And Vision becoming Ultron. That is not something I've considered. It's not something I think they're going to do, but now that you've mentioned it, we will keep our eyes open on that for sure.
Can he, though? I thought Vision can't come back without the stone.
Like, I mean, they can do a lot of
just as an AI, he's learning again.
There are so many ways. There's so many, like Marvel can do a million different things to bring somebody back from the dead. So they could say, well, Shuri didn't finish doing the thing she needed to do so he could live without the stone, but maybe she just did it enough partially that it intermixes with this other thing, and boom, Ultron's back. Or I don't know.
Interesting.
Well, it's Marvel. They can do whatever they want. All right. Next up, we have, and again, thanks for sending that in, Benjamin. Next up, Benjamin also writes, also can't wait to see WandaVision shots in the Marvel logo during MCU movies. It's going to really feel all connected. So, of course, the opening that as the Marvel logos fly, they change it up. It's not always they say the same, and sometimes they alter a little thing here and there, add a few things. And it will be interesting to see if they add something from WandaVision specifically into that, or if they start showing Wanda in a less than heroic way. Some kind of mean look on her face or something when they go that way. And I agree, Benjamin, it's something we're going to have to look out for. Right, Maria Seafring writes, no new commercial, correct? And congrats on the new house. Well, thank you, Marie. Well, it makes sense that there was no new commercial.
Right, because we were on the other side.
Exactly, we're on the other side. There wasn't a new... So if we think in terms of WandaVision, not us watching it, but WandaVision as the fantasy show, this week there was not a new episode of WandaVision. It was looking at it from the perspective of people on the outside, seeing the 3 episodes of WandaVision up till now. So really it makes sense. But I remember when I watched this the second time through, I was like, wait a minute, was there another commercial? And I kept my eye. Do you think they're going to keep the commercials going when we do get back into WandaVision? Or do you think we're no longer going to be fully immersed in WandaVision anymore? Now that we've seen through the other side of the glass, is it going to be constantly going back and forth?
I don't know. I think I said earlier, I think it's going to be 50-50 now. A little bit more balance of both sides. But I don't see why they would ditch the commercials per se. They haven't actually confirmed like what the commercials are coming from. So I want to see more of it.
Yeah, I'm suspecting we may not see any more commercials.
You think that was just kind of like a play on what's going on?
Here's the thing. The first 3 episodes, everything we have been completely immersed in WandaVision, right? And so being immersed in WandaVision, there's the classical commercials, and the commercials come. I have a feeling now that we've broken out from an audience point of view, now that we've broken out from being only fully immersed in WandaVision, I think now we're going to be on the outside with Kat Dennings and Randall Park and the director of S.W.O.R.D., and then back on the inside and on the outside. And since we're no longer going to be fully immersed in it, I don't think we're going to get any more commercials.
Okay.
So I don't know, what's Anne's 100% guarantee? Are we going to get more commercials or are we not? I'm going to say no. I'm going to guess no more commercials. I think the commercials are done. What do you think?
I think we'll get more commercials. They may not be like as focused on. They may just be playing kind of in the back as they're watching the new episode. And I still want a little bit more context to what the commercials mean for Wanda. Like why is she envisioning commercials within her show?
Again, I think it's just a kind of a fantasy, an extension, thinking back on the various trauma in her life. And then I think because right now, like, parents. Yeah,
like you brought it up before, like those aren't actual characters or people, like missing people that are living in this town. So maybe.
Yeah, did you notice when they're doing the dossiers, not only did they not have names for Agnes, they didn't have anything for the two other people in the commercials.
Yeah, so I'm still waiting kind of for that payoff of what's actually going on there. I mean, I think I know your assumption is correct, but as like a casual fan, I would like to know. That's for sure.
Okay, we'll just have time for a couple more with Anne here. Next up is going to be Benjamin GL, who writes in, what if trailer is, let me try this again. In what if trailer is a shot of Doctor Strange and maybe Wanda in multiverse. Bet there's a scene in Doctor Strange 2 where it's suddenly animated. I don't think so. I mean, I was there at D23 when Kevin Feige was talking about what if, and the what if thing is very, very separate. I mean, at least the way Kevin Feige described it at that time, and I was there in Anaheim when he was doing this, and he said, the way he described it, it is not to be confused with anything actually connected with the MCU. It is very much a what if. It's a very separate thing. So I'll tell you what, Benjamin, right now, I don't see that happening. But if it does, I will remember that you said that. I will totally remember that you said that. All right, next up, Benjamin also writes in, Vision needs Mind Stone. Wanda's powers are from the Mind Stone. Thus, somewhere in Wanda is a small piece of the stone, enough to revive or keep alive. I mean, I think that was a theory that held some, I mean, because he's right? So Wanda's power is based on the Mind Stone. He needs the Mind Stone to live. The theory then that something about her power could be enough to kickstart Vision and keep him alive. I wouldn't have bought into that before, but I would have seen some validity to it had I not seen episode 4. Episode 4 seems to suggest to us, I think at any rate, that, oh no, Vision's dead.
Yeah.
Vision's dead. There's not a Vision walking around that she's keeping actually alive, because with that Vision that she's, no pun intended, the vision she saw of Vision of being dead, the stone ripped out, I think that means it's something else. But I don't know. Do you think there's some validity to that? Do you think maybe he is actually alive, being kept alive by Wanda? Or do you think that's something completely different?
I just don't know that she would be in this frame of mind if he was in any way being kept alive. I think he was her last salvation of being okay.
Good point.
Yeah. So if he was being kept alive even a little bit, then I don't think she would be in this frame of mind right now.
She's not as broken.
Yeah.
It's good news, everybody. I found a way to bring Vision back.
Yeah, exactly.
Then she's not broken. Then she's actually happy.
Yeah. So all of these things that she's imagining in her sitcoms would actually be a reality. She would make them a reality if he was somewhat alive.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Okay. Last one we'll do with Anne here, because I know Anne's got a lot she wants to do around our new place. Let's see. Simon Hansen writes, I am now 75% sure this is Kevin Feige slowly building up to his version of House of M. Listen, that is something that has been theorized about long before the first episode of WandaVision started off, right? There's been a lot of talk about House of M, especially when they say that this is going to be an interconnected story, that this is going to transfer over into Spider-Man 3, which is then going to transfer over into Doctor Strange 2, and all that kind of stuff. So that is still, now listen, I have yet to see anything that has made me believe that more, but I haven't really seen anything to make me believe it less yet either. So to me, it's still a bit of a push. So we'll see. We'll see what happens when that comes along. Let's see. Benjamin GL writes, anyone notice Vision's forced to smile after the reveal? Oh, we were just talking about that. I don't know that she forced him to. I think he's now a little bit afraid of her.
Yeah.
I think he's a little bit afraid of her now.
Well, then it goes back to the question of, if she is envisioning Vision, how is he learning? How is he reacting? Where is this coming from then?
I think, I'm trying to remember the name of the other show. There was another show or movie where there was a guy who was able to bring back a version of his dead wife, but it wasn't real.
Oh yeah, there's a few stories that have that.
But the fake wife believed she was real, and he didn't want her to realize she was fake. I think that's part of it. I think, listen, I still think the absolute first and most important person that Wanda is trying to fool, the main person Wanda is trying to fool is Wanda. Wanda is trying to keep, it's like a drug. She's trying to keep herself immersed in her fantasy. And whenever anything happens that pulls her out of her own fantasy, no. Like that's when it goes dark. I think the second person she is most trying to fool is this fake Vision. Because if Vision understands that this is a farce, that pulls her out of her fantasy as well. So I don't know. I think it's this kind of weird.
Yeah, there's still a lot of it. That's my new word, a lot of it, that we still have yet to really figure out, right? I think there's still a lot about what's happening with Vision that I still don't know. So I like your theory that some of these episodes are actually going to focus on him.
Right. Now, I just want to clarify this. So Nathan Gendron in the live chat, which thank you for joining us, Nathan, is saying she's not trying to fool herself. She's just trying to fool everybody around her. No, she's not. She doesn't get
because
anything.
What would be the purpose?
Yeah,
of that?
what's the purpose? Yeah. Wanda is trying to deal with her grief by living in an idyllic fantasy, and where Vision is still there. She has children. She lives in this fantasy land of growing up watching American sitcoms from Sokovia and blah, blah, blah. She doesn't get anything from fooling people. She's not she hasn't fooled Herb. She hasn't fooled, what's the name of the guy with the mustache who wore the turtleneck and who said, "Oh, thank God."
Oh,
Dottie's husband. She hasn't fooled them. They know what's going on, apparently. Like the doctor saying, you know how hard it is to escape. Like she wants to fool herself. She wants to live in this fantasy. She wants to be free of the pain. Because again, when you look back at WandaVision, at Wanda, the entire story of Wanda is one of tragedy.
Yeah.
From her upbringing, losing her family, losing her brother, her Avengers family splitting apart and fighting amongst themselves, then falling in love with Vision, only to have him die again. I mean, it has been tragedy after tragedy after the events that started the Civil War was because of what she did and being put under house arrest by her own team. I mean, the story of Wanda has been tragedy after tragedy after tragedy, and she just can't deal with it anymore. And it's something sad. Hey, listen, Anne, I've kept you longer than I said I would, so thank you for being so patient, baby.
Of course. I wanted to talk many hours with you guys, but it's also moving day.
It's moving day. We literally have boxes still outside. You can see behind me. I have not gotten, you can see all the stuff behind me. We have not got things all set up here. But honey, I didn't tell you I was going to bring this up, but for anybody out there who is involved in the profession of project management, all that kind of thing, my wife is a supreme program manager, product manager, all these things. And you just recently started a podcast. I mean, you teach, you're a university teacher now. You have 4 degrees. But now you've just started for all of you guys, I'm sure some of you are involved in project management. You just started a new podcast on project management. Just tell everybody about it for a minute.
Oh, thank you. I didn't know you were going to bring it up. Yeah. So it's called the Everyday PM. The goal of it is to talk about project management principles and how that applies to your everyday life. So a lot of, career coaching, a lot of professional talk, specific industry talk that I have on the podcast, many different topics that if you're interested, definitely please check it out, the Everyday PM.
And, you have run projects for Hasbro, for Amazon, and starting Monday for another company, which you still aren't letting me tell people about. But
it's fine. It's final now.
Can we tell them now?
Yeah, it's done. Done deal.
Anne is now with Apple. So does that mean I have to get an iPhone? Because I'm kind of an Android guy.
Oh, let's not reveal that.
Okay. I'm open.
I bet Wanda uses an iPhone. No, just kidding. I don't know.
Yeah, but Anne got recruited. Anne got recruited by
super excited
by Apple and starts with them on Monday. Super excited, and Anyway, baby, we will have you on for much longer next Friday.
Yeah, for sure.
But I know you want to do what I want to do, which is start getting settled into our house. So I'll let you go do that. All right, ladies and
Thank you,
gentlemen,
everyone.
Ann Campea, or as she prefers to be known as, the better Campea. All right, guys, let's keep on going here. We still have a lot more questions to get to. So let's keep on rocking and rolling here. Next one up comes to us from, that was Benjamin. Daniel Qualls writes, first time donating and donating $50. Thank you so much, Daniel. I really appreciate that, man. First time donating, but have been watching for years. Thank you so much for coming along for the ride with us, Daniel. So the people in Westview are real. Also, Wanda is reanimating Vision's dead body. 100% nightmare fuel. See, I'm still not convinced that that's actually Vision's reanimated body, because I think his body probably would have, there's a lot of things science could have done with his body. And remember, it had been 5 years, but maybe it is his animated body. 100% nightmare fuel. But where did Wanda get his body? See, that becomes a problem. Where did she get his body? It's been 5 years. You think it was kept in Wakanda? That's a good question. Again, that's one of the reasons why I am not convinced that that is actually literally physically Vision's dead body. I think she just saw, lots of TV shows, right? Like a guy looks at his date, but for a second saw his date as his ex-girlfriend that he's been pining over for the last 5 years. Then he snaps to it and she's back to being who she really is, right? That's kind of what I thought it was, but maybe it's that. But I will say this. I wasn't convinced. You guys remember last week I said, I'm not convinced that everybody in Westview is real. I think there's a mixture of real and just totally manifested fake people. NPCs, for those of you who play Dungeons and Dragons, NPCs, if you will. But it turns out those of you, including Anne, who thought that everybody in Westview was actually a real person, looks like you were right. It looks like you guys 100% called it. But again, this comes down, Daniel, to that fundamental question. What is the nature of Vision? And this has kind of been a question that a lot of us as fans have had since the day we found out there was even going to be WandaVision, right? So is it actually Vision? Is it an illusion of Vision? Is it a manifestation of Vision created by Wanda with some self-awareness? Is it the literal Vision brought back to life, powered by the piece of the Mind Stone that is in Wanda, and she's able to? Is it a dead corpse walking around? Is Wanda engaging in necrophilia by messing around with Vision, a dead robot? Is it even still necrophilia if it's a robot? Maybe not. I don't know. These are not questions I wake up thinking about, ladies and gentlemen. If you have sex with a dead robot, is it still necrophilia? I don't wake up thinking about these things. I'm sure some of you do. But this is the billion-dollar question right now. The two primary questions are, is anybody else behind this besides Wanda? And then still, we need to find out what is the fundamental nature of Vision. And then is the rest of the series basically going to be about, are we now going to become Vision-centric, where now it's about Vision putting all the pieces together? That's possible. Up till now, the show has been very Wanda-centric. Does it now kind of shift to being Vision-centric? And will that tell us anything about the nature of what this iteration of Vision is? Maybe yes, maybe no. Time will tell. All right. Thanks a lot for writing that in, Daniel. And again, thank you for being a part of this, man. All right. Plot Twisties just sends in a super chat to be supportive. Thank you, Plot Twisties. Brian Esparza writes, damn near fell out of my chair when Agent Wu did see, I told you, right? The card trick. Did the card trick that he learned from Scott. Love that little wink towards Ant-Man. I didn't even catch it the first time I watched it. It wasn't until my second viewing that I kind of was like, wait a minute, he did the Ant-Man thing. I thought that was so cool. I mean, just having Kat Dennings there and just having Randall Park there, it already kind of makes it feel a little bit more like home, right? Because they're not main characters, they're secondary characters, and I kind of like that. And they're being used, they're not being forced in there, right? Randall Park is FBI. Kat Dennings is an astrophysicist who has worked with these. It makes narrative sense that these characters would be drawn into this story, and I like the way it's worked so far. All right, thanks a lot for that, Brian. All right, Plot Twisties writes in. Anybody else notice when they started identifying all the supporting characters, Westview residents, they didn't identify Agnes? I said that at the beginning of the show. I said that exact same thing. It's like, you'd think the first person they would identify is the guest star that pops up more than anybody else, which is Agnes. A lot of people still think it might be Agatha Harkness. I'm not convinced of that, but that's still, you'd think that would be the first person Plot Twisties that they would have identified, and yet they didn't. Somebody else, a gamer channel, is writing in the live chat right now, and Dottie. Yeah, Dottie's another one that they didn't mention. Now, just because they did, remember, they only mentioned a couple. It's not like they mentioned all of them anyway, but still, clearly the most prominent guest star is Agnes, and that's the one they didn't identify. I find that interesting. All right, let's move on. That was Plot Twisties. Plot Twisties also writes in. I said last week I thought the Wanda Thanos scene at Endgame might have been the first sign of her break from grief to insanity. Well, I think we can confirm that now 100%. Yeah, I mean, whether it was that or whether it was all the way back in Infinity War when she had to kill him herself. Seriously, we cannot overlook this. We cannot overlook this. In Infinity War, not only did she lose Vision once, well, she lost him twice, but the first time she lost him, she didn't just lose him. She had to be the one to kill him. Think about that. What does that do to your head? It doesn't matter that you rationally know that there was no other choice. You're like, if we don't destroy this guy's going to get the stone. He's going to wipe out half of existence, and there's no other choice. Has to be done. You can know that, but emotionally, she had to kill the only person outside of her family that she has ever loved, and she had to be the one to kill them. Do not underestimate the mental damage that will cause. And then only to find out that she did that sacrifice for nothing because Thanos shows up, brings him right back, only so he could kill him again. So not only did she kill him, she killed him for nothing. Now, I believe that's the beginning. And then you're so right. You fast forward now to Endgame. She comes out of the snap, because I'm not calling it a blip, but she comes out of the snap and you took everything from me. I'm telling you, if Wanda Maximoff, even if I had never met her before, anybody walks up to me on the street with the look in her eye that she had and saying it the way she did, you took everything from me. I'm turning around and walking the other way. I'm like, okay, no, thank you. No, thank you. Goodbye. Yeah. I'm not hanging around for that conversation. That's all I'm saying. All right. Next up, Brian Esparza writes, after this episode, we can probably dismiss Mephisto theories. I'm not sure that you can. Also, I was skeptical before, but I agree with Anne. Wanda will be an antagonist 100%. Yeah, I've been thinking that for months, like long before WandaVision started. When we found out Wanda was going to be in Doctor Strange 2, that was my first theory. She's going to be the antagonist in it. She's going to be the villain. Something's going to happen. She's going to go bad. Now, whether she does or doesn't, I'm not sure. Now, again, and I say this, Brian, as somebody who has never bought into the idea that it may be Mephisto. But don't count yourself out. If you are somebody who believes it's Mephisto, don't let the events of WandaVision episode 4 make you throw away your theory. Because it's happening, that big reveal that it's all Wanda, that's coming pretty early. So don't quite throw away your theory just yet. You still could be right. You still could be right. All right, John Argote Rodriguez writes, I came into WandaVision expecting typical MCU content. Yep, none of that, which isn't a bad thing, with added weirdness. But nope, it's like Joker. It's about the tragedy of a grieving woman pushed to the brink. Well, I'll tell you what, here's the interesting thing. WandaVision, from the beginning, was unlike anything that the MCU has done so far. Like right from episode 1, it's been unlike anything the MCU has done so far. The whole 50s sitcom kind of thing, that is not your typical MCU. Now we get into this hero going bad. like trapping all these people, visions of a dead former lover, now you're moving into another area of something they've never done before, which is also very disconcerting. It's very, I tell you, again, I said it earlier, I don't shock, okay? I don't shock in movies. It's extremely rare. I can be surprised and I can get, but like truly being shocked. When she looked up and saw that Vision corpse, it shocked me. It absolutely shocked me. Okay. Anyway, next up. Thanks for sending that in, John. Next up, J Meister 25 writes, there's 3 visions. Real Vision is dead. Fake Vision is inquisitive, and WandaVision is her perfect vision. Fake Vision learns too much and is reset. I mean, that's kind of what I was saying a little bit earlier, right? Like, right now I believe, but this could change. We could watch episode 5 and I could totally change my mind. Okay. I'm not invested in any of these theories that I have. My theory right now is this. The Vision we are seeing in this show is not the real Vision. That Vision is dead. If he's not dead, Wanda has no reason to be going psycho. So I believe the real Vision is dead. So we have this make-believe Vision that Wanda has manifested to propel her fantasy. But in order for her fantasy to work, this make-believe Vision has to remain oblivious to the fact that he is indeed make-believe. And the moment he starts to put pieces together that he's not, it ends Wanda's vision. It ends Wanda's fantasy, which is the only thing keeping her together. And that's where I think we're at, J Meister. So I don't know. We'll find out soon enough. All right, next up, J Meister 25 also writes, also, who we've seen the most so far is Fake Vision. WandaVision comes out every now and then, like when he says exactly what Wanda wants him to. I think that truly is one of the same Vision. I think what you are calling WandaVision and Fake Vision, I really do see them as completely one and the same. Vision, for the most part, is very much naively, unaware of the fact that he is in a fantasy of Wanda's. I think that's real. He really does think all this kind of stuff. And it's when he starts putting the pieces together that she has to reset. So, but we'll find out. Let's get into episode 5. And now that Vision is kind of seen behind the curtain a little bit, let's see where things go from here. All right. Thanks for sending that in, J Meister. All right. Next up, Plot Twisties writes, according to IMDb, Emma Caulfield only has one more episode. Over under 35%. Dottie pisses off Wanda somehow, and Wanda takes her out. Here's the thing. Normally, IMDb will only count things for either the episode that has already come out or the upcoming episode. So I would say this, if she's in, it is possible that she could be in episodes 7, 8, and 9, but IMDb wouldn't list that yet. I've seen them do that a lot with television shows before. Like when a show has only had its 3rd episode come out, and then you go to IMDb and you look up the stars of the show and it says 3 episodes. It's like, aren't they going to be in the rest of the season? Well, of course they are, but they just haven't come out yet. I'm not saying that is the case here. But I'm just saying I have seen IMDb do that before. So there's that. Okay. Next up, Oxall writes, it was nice to see that Agent Wu finally master that card trick he wanted to learn from Scott Lang. Best youth pastor ever. He was great. I listen, I unapologetically, this was a double win for somebody like me as a fan, because I love Randall Park and Kat Denning. I love them both. I think they're both great. I think they're both super charming on camera. I love watching both of them. I really enjoyed the two of them and their chemistry together too in this show. So I thought that was really good too. So it was just absolute love for me, man. Absolute love for me. And yeah, the card trick was great. Lucky Dragon writes, I'm off the Mephisto and Agatha Harkness train. At this point, I don't think there's a secondary antagonist. Wanda is the villain of the show. Now listen, again, that's kind of been my theory, that she is the villain of the show, period. But again, if you're like me and you've thought all along that Wanda's the villain, don't take a victory lap yet. because again, it's only episode 4. It's only episode 4. Now, I personally, Lucky Dragon, still feel that Wanda is the villain, but there is no way I would write off the idea that there's another player here. We're just too early in the season. I mean, I think Wanda's the only one, but it's far too early to say that's it, game over. I am not convinced of that yet. There still could be another player involved, whether it's Mephisto or Nightmare or somebody else. Not sure. Could still be, but I don't jump off the train just yet, Lucky Dragon. Don't jump off the train just yet. Somebody who's True writes in the live chat, it's Palpatine. It's good. It's Emperor Palpatine. He's the one behind all this. That would be quite a crossover, wouldn't it? All right, Lucky Dragon also writes, it's kind of crazy how accurate the majority of everyone's predictions have been. Are we smart cookies or what? It's true. Well, I mean, a lot of predictions have not worked out, but a lot of predictions have. I'm just telling you, I am getting, with every passing episode, I'm getting more and more into the show. Because you guys remember episode 1, I was like, I enjoyed this. It was fresh. It was different. It was original, and I appreciated it. And I was entertained. I wasn't like Anne, who was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, I wasn't as on board with Anne. But I'll tell you what, as this show has continued to progress, I've been getting more and more into this show. I really have. And I've been enjoying it immensely. And this episode, I mean, oh my God, and we're only on episode 4. How is Kevin Feige, how does Kevin Feige follow up episode 4? How do you follow that? I mean, I am very excited to find out, though, Lucky Dragon. All right, next up, Oxal also writes, I also love meta aspect of this episode. Like when they were filming last year, they knew the kinds of questions we as an audience would be asking. Again, it's one of my favorite parts of the episode. I think some people found it a little bit distracting, but I personally love the part where as the montage is going on and we keep going back to Agent Wu and he's writing out the questions on the right whiteboard. And it's the questions they knew all of us would be asking by this point of the series. And I thought that was great. And as they cut back to him again, he's got more questions on the board. And like, yep, these are the questions we've all been asking. I thought that was great, Oxal. So I'm completely with you on that. All right, next up, Lucky Dragon writes, and mark my words, Infinity Stones have something to do with this. I hope not. The radiation is from the Big Bang, which is tied to the stones in the MCU. That is true. Like they say in the MCU that the stones come from the Big Bang, right? It's, I believe, the way the collector kind of laid it out, that the stones come from the Big Bang. And that's possible. But again, I just can't believe that they will make this Infinity Stone centric. They just spent 10 plus years and 20 plus films of everything being Infinity War centric and ended it with Endgame. It's time to move on. I will personally be kind of disappointed if this ends up being a big Infinity Stone thing. If this ends up being one big Infinity Stone thing, I'm going to be disappointed because it's like, really? 10 plus years, 20 plus movies, you can't think of something else? I will be. So I got a feeling they're going to move away from that. But yeah, whatever. I mean, I trust Kevin Feige. Let's see what happens. All right, next up, Lucky Dragon writes, Wanda has somehow become the conduit through which the power of stones now flows, which is why she's now displaying all their powers. Remember, a lot of these powers came before, right? Mind control, telekinesis, all these things we're seeing her exhibit other than reality bending, but that's always been a part of like Wanda Maximoff's thing, Scarlet Witch's thing. So I'm not convinced of that, Lucky Dragon. I'm not on board with that yet. I'm not saying it's impossible. We could find out very well in episode 5 that you're 100% right. But for now, I am no more Infinity Stones. No more. Doesn't mean you can't reference the Infinity Stones, but I don't think we're going there. All right, next up. Lucky Dragon also writes, raw power, controlling minds, creating life, reversing time, altering reality, and transporting people in and out of spatial dimensions. That's all 6. Remember, she hasn't created life. We don't know that the babies are real. Now Anne is like 100% the kids are real. I'm not so sure. Then again, there's a part of this that for the children. Maybe part of this whole thing was so that Wanda could have kids. You know, with her dead robot lover. Why not? I mean, that could be it. Possibly. That could be it, I suppose. All right, Taki75 writes, they mentioned the real names of every character in the town except Agnes. Well, they didn't do everyone, but yeah, Agnes was an obvious omission there. She is still the only person we know nothing about. Remember, they also, I don't believe they mentioned Dottie. So that's another one that didn't get mentioned. So, and I think, and there was probably one or two others that were at that neighborhood watch meeting that they didn't mention. There were other women at that meeting that Wanda went to where she first met Dottie. There were others. I mean, yeah, one or two of them were mentioned, but there were several others that didn't. So but yes, obvious by her omission is the Agnes character. I mean, Catherine Hahn is the one who appears in the show more than anybody else, and they didn't mention her. Why? Maybe she's Agent Wu's missing, what do you call it again? When witness protection. Maybe Catherine Hahn is the witness protection person that Wu was looking for in the first place. Maybe not. We'll find out. All right. Next up, K Major writes, Wanda's death recreates the Mind Stone. Wanda's death recreates the Mind Stone, thus restoring Vision. Boom. You're welcome, MCU. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Just keep going. I like that. Yeah, obviously, again, if the stone was back and if Vision was actually alive, then there's no need for Wanda to have this fantasy. And there's no reason why she would look and see a vision of Vision's corpse, right? So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's other explanations around that, K Major. Let's keep our eyes open on that. Let's keep our eyes open. All right. Guessus writes, I find these episodes to be 23 minutes of foreplay, 2 thrusts, and everything stops, far too short. You know, listen, one of the oldest adages in all of entertainment, I mean, more going back further than the show must go on, is leave them wanting more. It's true in sex. It's true in entertainment. Leave them wanting more. And I will say, because I'll tell you what, if Anne was here, she would tell you this for sure. When the episode ended, the first thing Anne yelled out was, so short. And it's true. The better it is, the more you feel the shortness of it. Now, look, I've said this before. I will say it again. I am a fan of the week by week releases. It gives all of us a chance to be up to date with everybody else, all of our fellow fans. We're all up to the same spot. It gives us the opportunity to theorize and think about it and debate all week and hype up, get excited. And then we get another episode. You know, I like that. But I will admit, and this is true of Mandalorian as well, I really would like to see, if you're going to do week by week releases, I'd like to see like 45-minute to an hour episodes. I would like to see that. Like, I don't get me wrong. I'm not like pissed that these episodes are like 30 minutes. It doesn't, I mean, it's not like, I'm not going to watch WandaVision. It was 30 minutes. No, I'm not that at all. But I would say if you're going to go week to week, I would kind of like to see longer episodes. That's just me. All right. Thanks for that, Guesses. All right. Dwayne Fernandez writes, New Jersey, AKA home of the New Jersey Devils. I'll tell you what, man. One of the greatest goalies of all time came out of the Devils, right? Let me see if I can bring up a poster. Let me see. I always mispronounce his name. Where did he go? There he is. One of the greatest goaltenders of all time. I'll see if I can get his name in here. Martin Brodeur, the great Canadian goaltender, also was the keeper for Team Canada in the Olympics. And seriously, like, you'll talk Dominic Hasek for understandable reasons. You'll talk Patrick Roy. You'll talk about a lot of the all-time great goaltenders. Marty Brodeur is a guy that doesn't get enough. Marty does not get enough credit. He is truly one of the greatest goalies of all time. To watch him, he was one of these few goalies that could just take over a game. Very few goalies could do that. Dominik Hasek was that guy. I personally feel Dominik Hasek is the greatest goaltender of all time. There's also good argument to be made for a guy who never played in the NHL. The great Russian goaltender Vladislav Chechyak was one of the, truly, that guy, it's crazy what he did. But yeah, and from that, he's Canadian. He's not from New Jersey. But yes, he would have played hockey not terribly far from where the New Jersey Devils played. That's where he would have played hockey. Okay. Let's move on here. That was Super Dave Hernandez. And we will now move on with Nina Smile writes. One of two. Last week you said we're unlikely to get a Doctor Strange cameo and compared it to Cap not being an Ant-Man. However, Rhodey and Falcon showed up in that. Over under 30% of Doctor Strange side character, Wong or another Master, etc. pops up. Like Wong showing up. Wong's not a bad idea. By the way, the MCU doesn't have enough Wong. You can give me a Wong spinoff show or a Wong spinoff movie. I'd totally watch that. I love him. I loved him from Doctor Strange 1 all the way up. I'll put it this way. I like that theory, Nina. I would say that I think there's actually a higher chance that Wong shows up than Doctor Strange does. And by the way, I didn't tell you it is unlikely. I'm saying I feel like, it's just my opinion. I feel like it's unlikely we'll get Doctor Strange. I also think it's unlikely we'll get Wong, but I think there's a better chance because he is the side character of that bigger character. I think there's a better chance we get Wong. So I'm still not going to say 30%, but I will say I like the way you're thinking. And I will say that I think there's a better chance we get him than Doctor Strange. Let's keep our eye on that. I like that, Nina. Thanks for bringing that up. All right. Ryan Lohner writes, congrats to Anne for nailing the real person theory, and I love seeing Sword acting just like us, rapidly chasing every scrap of info about the show. That is pretty cool. You know what I love too is when you finally get the point you got Kat Dennings watching now WandaVision with Chips, and she's like invested in the show. And like she sees Wanda and Vision kiss, and she's like, "Aw," like she's all getting into it and everything, right? It is like Sword is just one of us. They're the working man's shield. That's what Sword is. They're the working man's shield. All right, next up. Adrian Rosales writes, in Feige, we trust. First 3 minutes got me hooked. I like how they showed how the people returned back from the blip. Yeah, it was a tremendous opening. And again, don't underestimate this. The extra power given by literally making the first frame we see of this episode the undusting. The power of that. Again, a lot of other shows would have started with a minute or a minute and a half of, just a regular day in the life at the hospital and everything's normal and all these people are reappearing, right? And that would have been fine too. But starting off with Monica, like undusting, super powerful. I loved that. I absolutely loved it. All right, next up. Kirky Novak writes, seems like there are several realities going on. The outside, the censored broadcast they watch, our broadcast WandaVision, now with bonus content. I don't think that's an alternate reality. I think it's literally whenever Wanda, the censored out parts is whenever Wanda is no longer herself in the fantasy. Have you noticed that? Whenever Wanda herself is no longer in the fantasy, the show stops. Think of it in those terms. As long as Wanda's in the fantasy, there's the show. The moment Wanda is pulled out of her own fantasy, the show is not the show anymore. The show stops. And I think that's kind of the way it's playing out. But we'll see now. We'll see how that kind of plays out, though. All right. Thanks a lot for saying that, and Kirky. Next up, D. Freitas writes, Feige once said this show will affect the whole Phase 4, not just Doctor Strange. Do you think this will connect to Jane's return in Thor and how she gets her cancer/powers different to comics? I know, with Darcy as the thread. That's the Kat Dennings character. With Darcy as the thread, I know it's a stretch, but Wanda is capable of the unexplainable. Okay, so here's the thing. You are right. We've heard Kevin Feige say the events of this will affect the whole MCU. However, if we all had nickels for every time Kevin Feige said that about different MCU properties, we would all be Disney shareholders by now. And I'm not saying he's wrong, but really, when you look at the events, there's very few MCU movies that you can point to that say that movie had absolutely zero impact on the world of the MCU, right? If any, but certainly very few Marvel properties that have happened where you could say this had zero impact on the overall world of the MCU. They usually do. And that's why we've heard Kevin Feige say basically the same thing about the upcoming Black Widow. We heard him say the same thing about Black Panther. We heard him say the same thing about Civil War. And that obviously that Civil War was huge. But so yes, he did say that about WandaVision, but I wouldn't get too moved by that because we've heard him say that so many times about a lot of different projects. And of course, if it happens in the MCU, it will have an effect on the MCU. So, but maybe it will be a bigger thing. But no, I don't think this is going to bring in Jane, although having Darcy there does open that door, but I really don't think you're going to see Jane come in or anything like that. I think once they bring Natalie Portman back, it's going to be for a Thor movie. That's when she comes back. But never know. Kevin Feige has done stranger things. Let's keep our eyes on that. All right, next up, Ryan Lohner writes, Agnes is nowhere on that board. We talked about that a little bit earlier, of the show's character. So it's still possible she's part of whatever's in charge. Again, though, keep in mind, there were other characters who weren't on the board. Unless I'm mistaken, guys, like correct me if I'm wrong. No, seriously, please do correct me if I'm wrong. But I don't believe that Dottie was on that board either. So does that mean that Dottie's in on it? Possibly, maybe. I doubt it. So, but yes, like I said off the top, Ryan, I thought Agnes's absence from that board was very conspicuous. Like, you know, I think like that stood out to me too, but I don't think it automatically means anything necessarily. Let's see. Okay. Ian Lewis writes, I'm glad the MCU covered more of the snapback in the beginning, and I'm glad you used the word snap and not blip in the beginning. Maybe a new show can form from it due to its varied complexities. I don't know if I'd be down. I had a discussion with a friend of mine after Spider-Man Homecoming, or Spider-Man Far From Home, I should say. A friend of mine and I had a discussion, and he was basically saying the same thing. Like, you could do an entire movie or show about, you know, the complexities, the chaos, the confusion, and the ecstasy and joy and happiness about the unsnapping when everybody came back. Because it would have been a lot of confusion and a lot of chaos. And I think the beginning of this episode captured a little bit of that chaos in the hospital. You saw the chaos it was causing. And that was just a sample. That was just a sample of the overall stuff. So, but I'll tell you myself, not interested in an entire series about that. I think dedicating a piece here and there of a movie or show to that epic event of everybody coming back is probably a good idea. An entire show centered on that, I'm not sure that interests me. But then again, Kevin Feige, Ian, would probably find a way to make it interesting. So let's see where that goes. All right, thanks for that, Ian. Next up, Yellow CT writes, I always thought about the people who died because of the snap being undone. Example, people on planes that came back in the middle of the air to nothing. This basically proves that. Morbid, I know. Well, yes and no. Yes and no. I remember having that debate a lot after Endgame, after Hulk. And by the way, a lot of people still forget, Tony did not undo the snap. Hulk undid the snap. Tony just killed Thanos and his army. That was a big deal. Tony killed Thanos and his army. Hulk is the one who undid the snap and brought everybody back. Anyway, that notwithstanding. when that happened, it caused a lot of debate. And that very scenario has been brought up in a lot of discussions, Yellow CT. What happens to somebody who was on a plane 15,000 feet in the air when the snap went off and they got dusted? When Hulk unsnapped it, did they appear 15,000 feet in the air to nothing and just fall back down to earth? I'm going to guess no. I'm going to guess the answer to that is no. See, what I propose probably would have happened. Now we're getting to some really deep nerd virgin talk here.
I think what actually happened is when he came back, if he was sitting in seat 3A on a particular jet, then he would reappear in seat 3A wherever that jet may be.
That's kind of where I'm at. I kind of think that. I don't think if you were, 5,000 feet above the Himalaya mountains, that's where you reappear, even if there's no plane. I think if you were in seat 3A of a particular jet, when the snap undid, I think you reappeared in seat 3A, wherever that plane happened to be. Now, of course, I can't prove that. Nobody can. Only Kevin Feige can answer that question. But I think that's kind of the way I always thought. That's the way I always kind of thought it played out. So that's just me. All right. Thanks for that, Yellow CT. Next up, Obis626 writes, is Vision real? That's the billion-dollar question. Did Wanda, with possible help, create a new physical version, or is she animating his dead corpse? Either way, it's tragic, but the second is scarier by far. No, listen, like we talked a little bit earlier, the second scenario, that the vision we are seeing in the show is actually a reanimated corpse. Literally a Weekend at Bernie's. It is a dead body being paraded around like a puppet by Wanda's power, not actually alive again, but made to appear alive, and she is having dead robot sex. Which, hey, whatever makes you happy. Some people like gardening, some people like football, some people like dead robot sex. I'm not here to judge. All right. I'm not here to judge. I'm just saying. But it does make it a lot darker, right? It does make it a lot darker. Now, I personally feel what we are seeing is a new manifestation. Of Vision. I don't think that is literally Vision's corpse walking around. I don't think that. It's possible, and if it is, again, it brings up a whole bunch of very, very dark, creepy possibilities there, Obis. So it certainly does. All right. Dan Ketchum writes, part 1. I just realized cosmic background radiation created the Fantastic Four. Wu asked if it was dangerous. Then Doctor said, not for us now, implying the latter in the plot. It might become dangerous. Interesting. I don't listen. Technically speaking, I don't think the Fantastic Four was ever called cosmic background. What is it called? It's. I thought it was 4 letters. Maybe it was 4. I don't think that's specifically. I could be wrong about that. But I don't think it was that specific combination of letters. But one never knows. Maybe it was. I don't think Kevin Feige is using any kind of backdoor narrative here to bring in or introduce Fantastic Four. I don't think that's the case here. But I think what was more interesting was what somebody else mentioned a little bit earlier about that particular type of radiation is from the Big Bang, which we of course know is where the Infinity Stones came from. So maybe there was some kind of a connection there, but you never know, Dan. You never know. If they start dropping other hints, then again, remember the beekeeper, his name is Agent Franklin. Obviously that wasn't Franklin Richards. That wasn't, Reed Richards and Susan Storm's actual son, but maybe it was just another little, Easter egg in there. If he keeps dropping Fantastic Four Easter eggs, maybe there's something more to be considered there. You never know. All right, next up. Oh, and Dakota Valdez did say it was 4 letters, CMBR. Thank you very much. It was 4. I knew I wasn't crazy. Thank you. And Roxy Chick throws that in there as well. Thank you, guys. Next up. Anrag P writes, Jimmy and Darcy definitely having the same recap session as us. They absolutely are, and that's one of the reasons why I love it so much. I love that part of the episode where it's just them kind of geeking out over the show. I like that a lot. All right, Juno Faulkner writes, geez, Wanda is absolutely terrifying. I'm telling you what, listen, It's the juxtaposition of the Wanda we see in episodes 1 and 2. WandaVision, WandaVision, right? It's the juxtaposition of that with the no and who are you, Wanda? It is that juxtaposition that is horrifying. Horrifying and shocking and scary and all those words that you can throw in there. It's all part of it. And you're right. It is definitely terrifying. Terrifying. I have absolutely everything under control. We are seeing the origin stories of a supervillain that maybe can be saved. But I'm telling you, I said it before, I'll say it again. This is not going to end well. WandaVision isn't going to have a happy ending. I really don't think it's going to have a happy ending. All right. Jibril Mengesha. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, man. I'm the worst in the world at pronouncing names. Sorry about that. So you're saying the universe created a sitcom starring 2 Avengers. Love how it broke the fourth wall for a second. I was saying the exact great minds, my friend. Great minds. I was saying the exact same thing earlier. It's like the show got real meta there for a minute, right? It got real meta because basically they said that and you kind of half expect them all to turn to the camera and go, because it's kind of like what everybody's saying. So good observation, man. Love your observation. All right, next up. Sorry, 2 of 3. This is only, okay, so the 3 here. I'm not sure if you noticed, but when they were posting identity of the inhabitants with their IDs, Agnes didn't have an ID with her image. We were talking about that a little bit earlier. Even the FBI can't identify her. I'm sure her role is going to be pivotal in the episodes to come. Well, here's the thing. I would say this, that Agnes's role is going to be pivotal, to me, has never been in question. That's never been a question, that her role is going to be pivotal. That Catherine Hahn's role in this thing is going to be absolutely essential and pivotal. I don't think that has ever been in question. And the fact that her picture wasn't up there, and neither was Dottie's, but the fact that her picture wasn't up there doesn't convince me more that her role is going to be very pivotal, because I'm already convinced. I'm 100% convinced that Agnes is going to be unique. There's going to be something very significant. Now, I'm not saying that necessarily means she's going to be Agatha Harkness or anything like that. I mean, you might, never know. But I've 100% believed she was always going to be really pivotal. But again, while I 100% agree, and I was just like, hey, how come Agnes's picture hasn't been put up there? Let's not read too much into it necessarily, because there were other characters who didn't either. But I am 100% agreeing with you, dude. She is going to be very important and pivotal to how this whole thing transpires. All right. Sam Fisher writes, really love this episode. Me too, man. I love seeing Monica be Monica and filling in some of the gaps for her and Maria's life. No, I really did appreciate that. You know what? One of the things I really liked too was when she was walking back in the Sword building and they had her mother's plaque up on the wall. I thought that was great. It just made it all feel, it's the subtle connections. You know, the MCU draws the connections all the time. Maybe we should go check in with Thor. Like the obvious over-the-top connections but it's the more subtle ones, like with the smaller characters and the side characters and things like that. It just makes it, I don't know, feel kind of special to me. So yeah. Anyway, Sam also writes, obviously Sword has been around a lot longer than we thought. Not necessarily. I want to say she started it right after Captain Marvel with Talos and the Skrulls. So that wasn't Fury starting Sword, but Far From Home, just overseeing the building of the new satellite. I don't know. I don't know if Sword really did get its beginning after Captain America. There were some people I've heard say that the origin of Sword was really centered around the end of Captain America Winter Soldier, when it became exposed that Hydra had infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. and S.H.I.E.L.D.'s, all their records got exposed and all that kind of stuff. I heard some people say that they kind of think that's when Sword started. Now, I haven't heard anything definitive. I haven't heard anything definitive on that. So maybe it goes back deeper, or maybe that's when Monica, or that's when Maria Rambo really got that whole thing started. And she was probably an agent of something else at that time. So I don't know, but maybe you're right. Maybe it goes back a lot further than that. It's not really something I've paid attention to before. Maybe I should. All right, next up. Sam Fisher also writes, I think if and when Monica becomes a hero, she will take the name Photon, as was Maria's call sign. Possible. I mean, again, that was her name. I mean, that was right there on the plaque of her mom, right? So that there would be something to that. Sam also writes, do you think Carol knows Maria is dead? Oh, probably. I mean, I wouldn't doubt if like very soon after, like obviously Carol came back because of Fury's message. The moment she came back, Thanos was a problem. So from the very moment that Captain Marvel came back, it was crisis mode, right? I have no doubt that the moment the events of Endgame were concluded, or even shortly after she arrived on Earth, because remember, we found in the post-credit scene that right after the snap and she got the transmission from Fury, that's when she came back to Earth. Although Maria, okay, so here's how the timeline would work out then. Captain Marvel comes back to Earth very, very, very shortly after the events of Infinity War. We saw that in the post-credit scene. Maria is still alive at that point, remember? She just had her successful surgery. And it was at that time that Monica got snapped. So I'm sure shortly after coming back, before the events of Endgame, that she probably would have looked up Maria. The Captain Marvel would have looked at Maria. And it was 2 years after that, 3 years before the events of Endgame, that Maria dies again. So yeah, I absolutely believe that Captain Marvel, Carol, would have known, first of all, would have reconnected with Maria, and then probably would have been with her when she died. I wouldn't be surprised about that at all. All right. Next up. So again, timeline. Snap happens. Maria just had her successful surgery. Monica gets snapped out of existence. 2 years later, Maria dies. So that's 2 years that Captain Marvel was back on Earth. So yeah. And then 3 years after that comes Endgame, and now we're all caught up with where WandaVision is. All right, Sam Fisher also writes, this show does what all good serials do, and that's answer one question and then ask three more. I don't know that it does like that ratio, but yes, it answers questions while raising new ones. The shows that really frustrate me are the ones that just keep asking new questions and keep raising new questions without ever giving any satisfaction to answering some of the ones they've already brought up. I can name several shows that I've gotten really frustrated with that. It's like, ooh, isn't this show like twisted and whatever? And it's just always raising questions. Like, yeah, but it'd be nice if at some point you started answering some of them. You know, this show's been great. It's been asking new questions and then start, as they're asking new ones, answering old ones, which just propels the new questions. And you're right. I really like the way they've done that. All right. Sam Fisher also writes, all the questions Jimmy was writing on the whiteboard are the same questions audiences and fans have. That's exactly what I was saying earlier, right? Ann and I were watching that. He's like, these are the questions everybody's been asking, including us. So you're absolutely right about that. Sam also writes, I'm loving this show's soundtrack. The soundtrack is fun. Yakety Yak, Don't Talk Back, Daydream Believer, Voodoo Child. I really hope they release it when the show's over. Well, I mean, but do they need to? These are all songs that are already available all over the place. You can jump on YouTube and look up the songs. You don't need a soundtrack for it. That's good news. You can go listen. You can go to YouTube, create a playlist of all the songs already. There you go. You've got your soundtrack and you're all set, Sam. All right, next up. Sam Fisher also writes, so the residents are more than likely stuck there and not helping the villain or brought in by Wanda, as they are real people with identities. Yeah, that's kind of the implied message that episode 3 gives us, or episode 4 gives us, I should say, is that these are all people who are there against their will. Wanda took over this town. Made everybody else oblivious to it, I guess for people who live close, and now are controlling these people's lives. And they know they're prisoners. At least at some points they're aware that they're being held prisoner. It's where it's going. All right, Sam also writes, the flashes of dead Vision were super creepy. Again, shocking. And I'm not a guy who gets shocked in TV shows or movie, but that moment that we see corpse Vision absolutely did shock me. Sam continues. Is episode 5 when we are going to start flashing between the sitcom and real life, or will it be straight sitcom for another 3 episodes or till the illusion breaks? Well, as I was saying a little bit earlier, I believe we have now crossed a threshold of the show. I believe the episodes of us as the audience being completely immersed in WandaVision is done. Now that we've seen the other side of the looking glass, I believe the episodes, and I don't know this for sure, we'll find out next Friday, but I believe from now on, each episode will be jumping back and forth between what is happening within WandaVision and what is happening on the outside of WandaVision and how they're trying to reconcile that, and probably following Vision as he's doing it. So that's my guess right now. All right, Sam also writes, love that all the episode titles are famous TV phrases filmed before a live studio audience. Don't touch that dial, now in color, and we interrupt this program. It's going to be really, they're following the whole motif of it, right? And again, that has been to me one of the real strengths of the show, even before episode 4. Now that we've gone, like I said, to the other side of the looking glass, are they going to continue to follow that naming paradigm? Maybe, maybe not. We will find out here. All right, next up, Murray Reich writes, and thanks for writing all those in, Sam. All right, Murray Reich writes, did you notice the FBI agent learned the magic trick? Yep, the magic trick that Ant-Man taught him in Ant-Man and the Wasp when he flipped his card to Monica. Yeah, again, I didn't notice it the first time, but when I watched the episode again a little bit later, like an hour later, when I watched it again, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's the trick that Scott taught. Yeah, I thought that was totally great. I thought that was great. All right, next up, Casey McNatt writes, is Wanda preventing Sword from seeing what's going on, or do you think it's somebody else? No, again, my theory here is this, and I said this about 15 or 20 minutes ago. My theory about why what they're seeing on the outside is edited is because as long as Wanda is in her fantasy, the show is happening. When Wanda is pulled out of her fantasy because something is happening that she doesn't want to have happen, that breaks her suspension of disbelief, if you will, the show stops. And that's why they only see certain things outside. That's my guess. That's only my guess, but that is my theory right now. All right. I'm just going to take 1 or 2 more here, guys. Then I'm going to take a short break, if you don't mind. I've been going over a little over an hour and a half already, so I'm going to take a few more, and then I'm going to take just a short break. All right, Dirk Walker writes, I think whenever Wanda starts to snap out of the illusion, the TV show, that's exactly what I was just saying, Dirk. The TV show cuts off. I don't think it was sensory. I completely agree. When she's immersed in her own fantasy, the show is happening. The moment she's pulled out of the fantasy, because Vision is catching on, or because the beekeeper shows up, or because she's figuring out that Geraldine isn't supposed to be there, those are the moments that the show stops because she's no longer immersed in her fantasy. So 1000% agree with you, Dirk. All right, next up, Dirk also writes, I love how uncomfortable Vision looks in the last shot. Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. Episode 5 is definitely going to be him pretending to be happy but trying to find a way out. More than that, Dirk, I'm starting to believe that's what the rest of the show is going to be. I'm starting to buy into the idea that that's what the rest of the show is. That the show is now going to transition from being completely Wanda-centric to maybe now telling it a little bit more from Vision's point of view, where he is going to start putting the pieces of this puzzle together. And ultimately, Vision's the one that's got to stop her. How twisted is that? I think ultimately this is going to come down to Vision is going to have to be the one that stops Wanda. And Wanda is once again going to have to lose Vision. Again. A third time. And maybe in the process lose her fantasy kids. Which could open the whole world to a lot of hurt. And that could be the impetus that sets off Wanda for what is then going to happen later in Spider-Man 3 and in Doctor Strange 2. Now, that's a lot of theorizing that I can't back up. That's just me fan speculating, but it is definitely a possibility of how they're going to do it. Okay, guys, listen. If you guys will indulge me, Like I said, we've been going for over an hour and a half already, so I'm sure some of you guys got to run, use the bathroom, all that kind of stuff. I need to go and refill my drink. By the way, you notice I'm drinking Diet Pepsi instead of my Zevia. It's because I just moved in. We haven't got my Zevia here yet, so I just ran to the store before we started so I could grab some Diet Pepsi. So I'm going to go top up my drink. I'm going to go use the bathroom, rest my voice for just a couple of minutes here, guys. So give me about 5 minutes here. Hang tight. Don't go anywhere, my friends. And we will be, if I can figure out how to do this, yes, we will be right back. I'll see you in just a couple of minutes. Okay, guys, and we are back. Thank you for giving me a moment. Again, listen, guys, seriously, let me give you a little bit of an update here on what's going on and how kind of crazy this whole thing is. By the way, while we do that, can we just appreciate for a second again, Marty Brodeur? I'm so glad somebody brought up Marty Brodeur. We don't talk about Marty Brodeur enough. Can we just all appreciate that? Okay, anyway. You gotta understand, I have spent the last 5 days desperately working with our contractors, driving a lot, moving things and working like 18 hours a day. My legs are killing me. And then yesterday I got 3 hours sleep. And so I'm going to need to take breaks once in a while as we get through this. And keep going. So thank you for giving me a little bit of a break. I'll probably have to take another little break. Again, for those of you just joining us, if you notice that the background's a little bit different, things are not all set up yet. They will be set up soon, but Ann and I moved this morning. The movers left here at about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and we started the show at 5:30. There's a lot being unpacked out there. Ann, not super happy that I'm not out there helping unpack, but she understands. She knows the show must go on. And, but yeah, it's been a very, very busy day. I got like 3 hours sleep last night. I'm not all there. Not that I ever am, but let's keep on going, shall we? Let's keep right on going. All right. I think we ended off with Dirk Walker. So let's keep things going from there. All right. Casey McNatt writes, okay, here's a question I have. And I just think people might be overlooking it. Who is the missing person that was in the witness protection? Okay, this is something that Ann and I talked about. I don't know that there's any significance to it. I really don't. Now, it could be that Agnes. So for those of you who forget, Agent Wu, Randall Park, was there because he was trying to track down this person they have in witness protection. And that's what started this whole thing. That's what put it on the FBI's radar. And then that's what put it on Sword's radar, which is ultimately what got Monica Rambo there. I don't think the person in witness protection, I don't think that's going to be relevant or important. I think that was simply a plot device. They needed something that was going to put this on people's radar. How does Agent Wu get involved? I don't know. One of the people there was in witness protection. So not a bad guy, but somebody who's in witness protection. And now that person's gone missing and is off the radar, Agent Wu has to go and investigate. And then that put it on Sword's radar because of what Agent Wu's discovered and so on and so forth. So I think ultimately it may not mean anything, but who knows? In episode 5, we might find out that, Agnes is the person in witness protection and she's in cahoots with Wanda. I don't know. We'll have to wait. And find out. Okay. Here we go. Nick C writes, I love the scene where Darcy and Jimmy are writing questions on the whiteboard, such as, is Vision alive? Made me feel like the MCU was talking to me. Not just talking to us, Nick. It felt like they were us for a few minutes, right? It's like their acknowledgement is like, hey fans, we know exactly the stuff that you're thinking. And they write out the questions. And I agree with you, Nick. I thought that part was great. I thought that was really, really excellent. All right, next up, Nick C. also writes, also, I love the contrast between this episode's depiction of the blip versus Far From Home. Seeing the chaos unfold gave me chills and a new perspective. And again, this goes back to what somebody was saying earlier, Nick, that I think there would have been a lot of different ways that the unsnapping played out. From chaos, confusion, joy, euphoria. I mean, there's just... and I think the fact that they put this one in a hospital, I thought, because that's exactly how it probably would have played out in a hospital. All of a sudden, 50% more patients show up, and the people they thought were dead are suddenly running. It causes utter confusion and chaos. And I thought that was a really neat way to approach it. All right, Rylan Holman writes, think they will use Rambo losing her mom as a way for her to relate / connect / get through to Wanda? Well, I mean, she's already got a relationship with Captain Marvel. She's already got a relationship with Captain Marvel. So could that understanding of superheroes combined with the idea of loss and suffering create a bridge that she can then have with Wanda? Again, because of her connection with Captain Marvel, she knows how to relate with these super beings. And then can she use that sense of loss? Maybe. But a lot of people have lost a mom. I don't know if Monica losing her mom in a very normal way that a lot of people lose their parents is going to be something that can be relatable to a Wanda whose entire life has been defined by tragedy. Lost her brother, lost her love once because she had to kill him, and then only to have that undone, have him brought back, and then watch him be killed again in one of the most horrific ways. I don't know if that's something that they'd relate to. So I don't know. It's possible. We'll have to wait and see. All right. Daniel Weissy writes, when Asian Jim, Randall Park, made the card appear, I nearly pissed myself laughing. What a great callback to Ant-Man 2. Absolutely was. I love that they did that. I love that. Well, first of all, Darcy, Kat Dennings, she still has all of her Darcyisms, although now it's many years later since we've seen her and she's a doctor herself. But I love that they keep those things about those characters, especially with Asian Jim. I love that a lot. All right. Joseph Mitchell writes, a little creepy watching people reappear in the blip, but not as creepy as dead, but alive Vision with a hole in his head. I've used the term already in this broadcast. Shocking. I don't shock at movies and TV shows. I don't shock. That shocked me. That completely shocked me. I was not prepared for that. It was like so out of nowhere and so different. It was like, yeah, so effective, and bravo to them. Bravo to them for the way they pulled that off. All right, Rylan Holman writes, also, that flash of dead Vision freaked the crap out of me. Wonder if he's actually alive somehow. Again, see, I think a lot of people are going to be wondering that, and it's understandable to wonder it. But again, to me, if he's actually alive, then what does Wanda have to be upset about? What is Wanda protecting herself from? Where's the grief that Wanda is hiding from by creating this fantasy fairy tale? It just kind of seems to undo the whole motivation of why what Wanda's doing is what she's doing. Now, again, I'm not saying that proves anything. Not at all. Not at all. Maybe he is Vision back alive again, but I don't think that's what it is. Because ultimately, that's the root of her grief. And if he's alive, then there's no need for his grief. Sorry, then there's no need for her grief, right? So yeah, I believe he's actually dead. I believe he's still dead as dead is dead. But who knows? We'll find out. All right. Ryan Holman also writes, I like the part with them writing all of our questions on the board. They know us too well, ready for answers. And I think the fact that so many people are writing in about that same moment is kind of a testimony to the fact of how much that resonated with us. We saw other people seeing what we were seeing, but they are in the show and they're thinking the exact same thoughts we had. And I think that's a really good way to connect with us as the audience. I thought that was really smart. All right, next up. Basim F writes, science. Old TVs actually do capture a fragment of the Big Bang's afterglow. So, the cosmic microwave background mentioned in the episode implies Wanda is starting a cosmic level event. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I mean, I think right now, where Wanda's head is at right now, is that she's simply trying to create this little fantasy world for herself and just live in it, period. That's it. I don't think she wants anything more, and I don't think she wants anything less. Now, when this all goes badly in the show, Basim, when this all goes badly and Vision turns on her, and maybe she loses her children, her fantasy children, and she is forced again to confront the horrible reality of all the tragedy she's faced in her life, that may then trigger something about her causing a cosmic level event, which could then lead us into Spider-Man 3 and Doctor Strange 2. But my thought right now is, and I could be wrong, just a theory, my thought right now is that I don't know that she's looking to cause a cosmic level event. I think she really is just focused on trying to deal with her pain. I think that's the extent of it right now, but we will find out. All right, Nick C writes, one of two. An interesting point I can't stop thinking about is how things from the present reality are able to enter into Wanda's alternate ones, such as drones. And Monica, what is stopping this alternate reality of Vision from entering the real world? I think Vision is the key and could be a catalyst to Doctor Strange 2 and the multiverse. Well, I believe 100%, Nick, that Vision is the key. And I kind of feel like the next few episodes are going to be more Vision focused. I don't know that. I'm just guessing. I'm just speculating. I think it's going to be more Vision centric. Now, I don't believe it goes both ways. I don't believe that just because somebody from the outside can come in, that means somebody on the inside, particularly a make-believe person like this fake Vision, can walk out of that bubble, right? You can go into the show, you can't come out of the show. So I don't think that's, but the one thing I will say about that though, is this. I have been sitting here watching and going, well, wait a minute. If they can just fly a drone in, and if Monica can just walk in, and if that beekeeper, Agent Franklin, can just crawl in, what's stopping Sword from just running in there with 500 armed soldiers to try to figure out who's holding Wanda captive? Except now they know that Wanda is the issue. But I mean, why have they taken days to just study if they can just literally all go walking in there? Maybe it's because they don't, maybe it's because, Rambo hasn't come back out. Maybe they're afraid if you go in, you can't come back out. I mean, I don't know, but it just seems odd to me that this fantasy world surrounded by this energy field, as Monica called it, anybody can just walk in. You can just walk in. It doesn't actually keep anybody out. So that to me is a little bit strange. That to me seems a little bit strange. So we'll see. A bunch of people writing in the thing. John, watch the new trailer. Oh, is there a new trailer for WandaVision? Hold on, let me check this out. WandaVision episode 5 trailer. Let me see if this is out there. Oh, episode 5 promo. Okay. Let me take a look here, shall we? Give me a second. Let me watch this. Okay, I'm watching this right now. She comes out. Give you a sense of this is what I'm seeing here.
From inside the Westview anomaly.
Okay.
What you're looking at here is it an alternate reality?
Oh, they're asking the questions we were asking ourselves.
Starring 2 Avengers?
It's a working theory.
It's a working theory.
Moves fast out in the suburbs.
Should we just take it from the top?
Ooh, should we just take it from the top? I like that.
This started.
What is outside of Westview?
Ooh, that very thing just came up. Vision asking, what is outside of Westview?
Yeah, and Not sure what that's about. It's probably just a case of the Mondays. Am I right?
Okay. This came up the other day. For those of you who haven't seen the trailer yet. Wow, this is a full trailer. This is a full trailer. Oh, this is now going into the second thing there. Okay, so what's interesting is we were talking last week about, do we think they'll eventually get to the era of sitcoms of like The Office, Modern Family, Parks and Rec, where they do the fake docu. Remember, those are three extremely popular shows that are the fake documentary motif. I said, yeah, I could totally see them doing that. And then we just saw Wanda doing that. I thought that was rather interesting. And I also think it's pretty cool. But just as somebody was asking, like, hey, you know, can Vision come out? And then we get this spot drop where Vision is literally asking, what is outside of Westview? And he's trying to walk outside of it. I find that fascinating. What's going to happen when Vision tries to walk? But was that an episode 5? Was that an episode 5 promo? Okay, it was an episode 5 promo. At least I was just saying. Or was it just a promo for the rest of the season? But it says specifically it's an episode 5 promo. So we will keep our eyes on that. Okay. Anyway, let's keep on keeping on with this right now. Okay, let's keep going with your questions. Next up, we've got, thanks for pointing that out to me, guys, that new spot had dropped. I had not seen it. I don't even know. I don't know if that's been out for all day or if that just came out now. Anyway. Okay. Next up. Okay. That was Nick C. Okay. So we move on now next to Joseph Mitchell, who writes, I've thought about it for sure. A little Jimmy Woo, get him a tiny little FBI badge. A chip. Sure. I love that line. When she says, want some? He thought she meant kids. He meant the chips. That was adorable, Joseph. I think a lot of people probably thought that was a little cringy. Personally, I found that scene adorable. I thought that line and that joke was adorable. Totally. Oh, you mean a chip. I love Jimmy. I love Randall Park in general. Anyway, James Argento writes, after episode 4, I think the show will end with Wanda, Vision, and Sword defeating whoever the background villain is. Wanda takes responsibility for her role and goes to Strange to learn how to control her powers. That's a possibility. That is a very traditional way they could go. You know, the hero's still the hero and the hero saves the day and all that kind of stuff. It would be a very traditional, even MCU traditional thing to do. I don't think that's what they're doing. I mean, they might. I don't have any insider information, but I don't think that's the way they're going. I really don't think that's the way they're going. I think the way they're going here is that Wanda is the villain, driven mad by her pain and her suffering and her grief. And maybe at the end of the day, maybe by the end of Doctor Strange 2, she's saved like Luke saved Vader, I guess. Maybe that happens. I think this is going to get real dark real fast. I think this is going to get really dark really fast. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, that's the way I think this is going. All right, next up. That was James Argenta. Okay, next up. KC McNatt writes, is it just me, or when Wanda and Vision is on the couch, does Vision look at the camera and give us an evil smile at the end? Oh, I didn't think that was an evil smile. I think that was a very unsettled smile. Like, because you back up a few seconds from that after she says, what are we going to watch on TV? And he turns around and he looks very, very concerned, but then puts on his smile. But first he looked extremely concerned. And then they're sitting on the couch, and that's what I think was happening to his face. I think that's what was happening to his face. But anyway, that's just me. All right, James Argento writes, tinfoil hat theory. You got to have some tinfoil hat theories. They're always fun. Wanda breaks multiverse in show, which leads to Osborn creating Sinister Six with villains from the multiverse. Strange recruits Toby and Andrew to help Tom Spidey win. Strange 2 fixes multiverse. No, it's a little too out there. Now watch, that's exactly what happens. Maybe. To me, that seems really too far out there. Not to mention that while I do believe even though it has not been confirmed that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are going to be in the next Spider-Man. Everybody assumes they are, but let's be clear, that's never been confirmed by anybody official. I personally believe there's been enough anecdotal evidence to suggest there will be, so I kind of believe they will. But what everybody seems to also be in agreement with is that if Andrew and Tobey are in the next movie, they're going to have very small roles. So that's why I think just on that level alone, I think this just goes a little bit too far out there. I think just a little bit too far out there. Who knows, though? I'll have to wait and see. Next up, Benjamin GL writes, don't think this is true, but what if Vision is alive and it's Wanda's PTSD that saw that dead Vision is like hallucinating interesting thought? Okay, let me try this. What if Vision is alive and it's Wanda's PTSD that saw that dead Vision like hallucination, interesting thought? Well, I do believe that when she looked at Vision and saw that, I don't think she was literally looking at his actual present dead corpse that was being reanimated. I do believe it was like a PTSD thing, but I don't think Vision's alive. I still believe that is a fairy tale Vision. I think that is a fake Vision. I think that is a manifestation of Vision that Wanda has conjured, and it's not the real Vision, who believes he is the real Vision, but is going to figure out and put the pieces of the puzzle together to realize he's not, which is going to destroy her again. So, but again, I don't know that. That's just kind of my guess. All right, next up. Mr. 47 writes, finally, some damn answers. Hopefully the next episodes don't go fully back into sitcom mode because I feel like it would kill the pacing and feel jarring after watching today's episode. I don't know that I agree with that. Like, first of all, let's be clear. I do think we are done with the entire episodes completely immersed in the WandaVision world. I think that's done. But I think if they did do it again, I don't think it would be jarring. I don't think it would take us out. I think if they did it again, it would be because that's the way they need to tell the next part of the story. But again, like I said, Mr. 47, I do believe we are done with that. I think now every episode will be a going back and forth between the inside world of WandaVision and the outside world where Sword is. So I do think we're going to see that going back and forth throughout the rest of the show. Again, I don't know that for sure. And I do think if they did go back fully immersive into the sitcom thing, they would find a way to make it work. I think they'd find a way to make it work. All right. Next up, Kazam003 writes, hey, John. By the way, love the show. Thank you so much, Kazam. We saw dead Vision, so do you think that was due to Wanda's PTSD or has she been reanimating Vision this whole time? That's the billion-dollar question. Again, my belief on that is it is not a reanimated corpse. We've seen this a million times in a million different shows and in a million different movies, right? Somebody looks at somebody and sees something else for a second, whether it's an ex-girlfriend or something that they regret from their past, and then they snap back to it and they see what's really there. They've done that in every single movie and TV show ever in history. I think that's what was happening in WandaVision. I don't think that is literally Vision's corpse that's being moved around by Wanda. I think it's a vision she's having. It's hard using that word when the name of the character is also Vision. It makes it tricky using that word, but you know what I mean by that. So that is kind of the big question that seems to be on everybody's mind right now, but that's the way I think they're going to do that. All right. Next up, Jasmine Jones writes, don't mess with Wanda or say something wrong in her reality or she'll kick you out literally. And I had a feeling that she was controlling it. I mean, we were kind of talking about that, right? Like I felt from the beginning that this was Wanda's doing. This was all Wanda's doing. This is Wanda trying to deal with her grief and her pain that she has kind of endured her whole life, but never as bad as when she lost Vision. Comes back from the snap. You saw a little glimpse of it when she's dealing with Thanos. You saw it a little bit more in her conversation with Hawkeye after Tony's funeral. And now it's just coming, bam, for fruition. Because in the timeline, this would have happened just days after Tony's funeral. She had lost it. could see it. If you go back and watch Endgame, you can see it. As she's talking to Hawkeye at that lakeside, that was a broken person, man. That was a broken person. So yeah, I mean, it's absolutely broken person. And you could see it at that point. So anyway, there's that. Okay, let's move on. What's that? Hold on a second. Sorry, my feed with my chat is freezing. Give me a second. Sorry, give me a second here. Hold on a second. Oh, what if I did this? And that fixes it. Okay, good. Sorry, guys. Again, just moved all my stuff into a new studio. Thank you for your indulgence. Okay, next up. Oh yeah, or she'll kick you, have a few shoes. Yeah, so I'm right there with you. Kevin Laniel writes, I love the fact that Randall Park's character's name is Jim. I hope it was on purpose. I doubt it was on purpose. I doubt it was on purpose. I have a because I have a feeling that was probably the name of the character before they ever cast Randall Park to play it. So, but wouldn't it be fun, Kevin? Wouldn't it be fun to find out that it was done on purpose? That would be kind of cool to find out. But yeah, I don't think it was. I think they probably had the character named and everything before they cast it. But if it was on purpose, that's a pretty cool thing. Okay, next up, Andy Newton writes, we need 100% merch. Congrats for the new house, guys. Thank you so much. Of course, Ann is like, 100%. You're right. We got to make those. We got to make those shirts. We got to make Ann going 100% because I would sell out like crazy, Andy. And I'm sure Ann will love hearing that you like her idea. All right. Patrick Conway writes, how long do you think it will be till Sword versus Wanda happens? I feel it's only a matter of time till Sword goes in guns blazing. Again, going back to what I was saying a little bit earlier, Patrick, I mean, if they could just go in anytime they want, I mean, if they literally can just walk in, because it doesn't look like Wanda's, fantasy world there, that energy field keeps anybody out. I guess it keeps people in because everybody's saying they can't escape. But we haven't seen anything to suggest that it can keep people out. The drones fly in, Monica walked in, Franklin walked in, everybody's just able to walk in. So yeah, I think that's coming. I don't think the show climaxes with Wanda versus Sword. Right now, my guess is the show climaxes Wanda versus Vision. But again, that's just a guess. This is just a guess of where we're at right now. But it would kind of go towards just how dark this whole thing could kind of be. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Hold on a second. Okay, next up. That was Patrick Conway. Mr. 47 writes, did the Sword agent talking to Darcy feel like a young Michael Keaton? Oh, you're talking about the guy in the van? Feel like a young Michael Keaton to you all? Or was it just me? Just his mannerisms and even how he spoke. Are you talking about, because I've got a little Michael Keatonish from the guy inside, and not so much from the officer who brought her in that she asked for a coffee from. I didn't get Michael Keaton's from him, but I did kind of get a little Michael Keaton from the guy she was talking to in the van, who she called a Boy Scout. And then when he said, I'm a this, she said, nobody cares. By the way, that line was the most Darcy line ever. So I don't know. I'll have to go back and watch it again. I'll see if I can pick up a little bit of Michael Keaton in either of those characters. All right. Sam Fisher writes, could Agnes be the witness Jimmy Woo is looking for? There's something weird about the fact that she has no other ID unless they just haven't figured it out yet. I mean, it's possible. It is possible that she is that person in witness protection. Personally, I don't think the person in witness protection is an issue. I really don't think that's I don't think anybody in WandaVision cares. I don't think that's important. I don't think the identity of the person who's in witness protection has any relevance to the story. I think that was just the plot device that explains how FBI agent Jimmy Woo got onto the Westview case and how then by extension that got Sword involved and got Monica Rambo involved. But honestly, I don't think it goes anywhere beyond that. Could be wrong though. Could be wrong. We'll find out. Okay. Next up, Josh Valentine writes, did you catch Jimmy Woo using close-up magic to reveal his business card? Yes, we did. He's been getting tips from Scott Lang. Again, that's again, pointing out how many people caught that. Because you might think that's not a big deal, right? But look at how many people are noticing it. It is a big deal. I thought it was a really cool thing. All right, Dan Ketchum writes, Voodoo Child at the end means Vision is a zombie. No, it doesn't. That wasn't just her having a flashback. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think using that song means that he's a zombie. No, I don't think so. Listen, again, I'm not saying it's impossible that could be, in fact, Vision's physical corpse being moved around. But I don't think that song gives any indication to that. I don't think that. You never know. Kevin Feige may come out tomorrow and say that's exactly what happened, but I don't think it was. All right, next up. Thanks for that, Dan. Next up, Gabriel writes, one of two. Imagine if the babies are real and they are mutants, and Wanda says her famous line, "No more mutants," but in this context she says, "No, more mutants." Nah. Again, Kevin Feige has already laid out. Look, let's go on to 2 of 2 first. Then boom, black screen, show ends, and mutants are introduced to the MCU for later movie exploration. At least that's my hope. Would love your thoughts. No, I don't think so. Look, Kevin Feige, and again, anything is possible. It's possible. Here's why I don't believe so, at least not right now, until I see more evidence. Kevin Feige has been very clear the whole time. When Fox was being taken over by Disney, Kevin Feige made it very clear. I'm not going to start addressing X-Men stuff until after my current plan. And my current plan is 5 years. My current plan is 5 years. Now, even though Kevin Feige said that, whenever a new MCU property has come out, everybody speculates, this is the one where they're going to introduce mutants. And of course they never do, but it doesn't stop. Every time a new MCU movie comes out, everybody speculates this is where the mutants are coming. This is where the mutants are coming. This is where the X-Men are being introduced. And they never do, because Kevin Feige already told us, I got a 5-year plan right now. I got the next 5 years planned out. When I'm done with that, we'll get on to the X-Men stuff. Now, not coincidentally, that was 3 years ago. That was 3 years ago. And what did they just introduce at the recent Disney stockholder presentation? Fantastic Four. And guess when Fantastic Four will come? 5 years after Kevin Feige said that it's going to be at least 5 years before we get to X-Men or Fantastic Four, any stuff like that. He's holding true. So look, listen, people can change their mind, including Kevin Feige. Kevin Feige could have changed his mind and he could decide, you know what? No, I was going to do something else with WandaVision, but I'm going to use WandaVision to introduce mutants. He could do that. That's possible. But I don't see any evidence to suggest that Kevin Feige's had a massive change of heart. Kevin Feige's got so many properties and so many projects to work with that does he need to now rush into? And by the way, the other problem with that, with just Wanda just causing mutants to appear now you're taking away the absolute most core essential thing to all the X-Men. The history of Professor Charles Xavier and Eric Lesnar, of taking away Professor X and Magneto. And their history. That goes back decades of dealing with the issues. Just having Wanda snapping her fingers saying, oh, now there are mutants on the planet. It takes all of that. It's like saying Superman doesn't come from Krypton. It's like saying Batman never had his parents murdered in Crime Alley, right? It's just, and not to mention, just going back again to the main thing that Kevin Feige said 3 years ago, it's going to be 5 years. So I'm guessing no. And again, we have this discussion. Every new MCU movie that has come out ever since, everybody says this is the one they're going to bring in mutants. Infinity War, the stones are going to cause mutants. Endgame, the unsnapping is going to cause mutants. Spider-Man Far From Home, we're going to find out now that the mutants are here. Then every time an MCU movie comes out, everybody has come out of the work and said, this is the one where mutants are coming. And every single time, Kevin Feige has proven true. He said it was going to be 5 years. I believe it's going to be 5 years. But again, that doesn't mean it's impossible. People can change their minds, including Kevin Feige. So I find it highly unlikely. Let's put it this way. I'll be surprised if that's what they do. But don't believe it's impossible, because it's not impossible. So anyway, we'll see what happens. All right. Next up. Collins E. writes, learning that Maria died while her daughter was blipped was heartbreaking. It really was. I wouldn't mind Marvel occasionally using their Disney shows to explore ramifications of Thanos' dissemination. Listen, that's exactly what I was saying earlier, Collins, right? Like, I'm not interested in a show about the unsnapping, but I am very interested, considering how many different ways the unsnapping or the undusting could have affected people. I am curious that having the odd property or the odd movie or the odd show take a moment to look back on that, like Far From Home did, like WandaVision just did, that I'm all for. Because every situation and every circumstance of that undusting would be different. Some chaotic, some confusing, some terrifying, some euphoric, some joyful. Like, they would be really different and diverse, and I think they could find a way to do that. All right, let's move on. Thanks a lot for that, Collins. Ketchup on Eggs writes, that Vision scene scared me to death. Dude, I think you're not the only one. You are not the only one. It scared a lot of people to death, my friend. All right, Feely315 writes, so what happened to the beekeeper guy? Is he dead? I mean, Ann and I were just talking about that about an hour ago. We were just talking about that about an hour ago. It's like, so what happened to the beekeeper? I thought they were going to show us. Did he just get ejected out of the fantasy? Or did he get dusted? Did he get destroyed? Did he get murdered? Did he get decapitated? Decapitated. It's when Leonardo DiCaprio gets his head cut off. It's called being decapitated. Did he get decapitated? I don't know. I like that. Decapitated. I'm going to use that now. I don't know why. I don't know how. Somehow, some way, I'm going to use decapitated at some point. Okay. So anyway, yes, I want to know what happened to him too. All right. Ryan Lohner writes, I'm thinking that the force field attracts other people who are feeling grief, like Monica for her mother, which is why she got pulled in. I don't know. Don't forget, Monica didn't get drawn there. Monica got sent there by the director of S.W.O.R.D., so it didn't draw her there any more than it drew in Jimmy, right? So I don't know. It's an interesting theory, though. Let's keep our eye. Maybe they explore that a little bit. Let's keep our eyes open on it. All right. Ryan Lohner writes, I'm thinking that the force field. Oh, sorry, that was Ryan Lohner. It could be an interesting theory. All right. Hamza Hussein writes, I think that Wanda is controlling much of Westview, but someone else is also pulling strings. Love your show, John. Congrats on the new home. Thank you so much, my friend. And yeah, we were talking about that a bit earlier, right? Like, Monica coming out of the fantasy and saying, it's all Wanda. It's Wanda. It's all Wanda. It's only episode 4. Again, I am of the belief that I've always believed it was Wanda. And I still do believe it's all Wanda. But Monica declaring it's all Wanda, I don't think guarantees it is all Wanda. It's still just episode 4. Maybe Monica Rambo saying it's all Wanda could be a misdirect. Now, look, again, I don't think Mephisto comes into play here. But don't think for a second that just because Monica Rambo just said it's all Wanda absolutely means it's not Mephisto. It very well still could be. Even though I don't think so, it very well still could be. So let's see where that goes. All right. Chronic Demise writes, one of 3. Questions we now have. 1, who is the director of S.W.O.R.D.? 2, apparently he was a friend of Maria, was probably really close with Monica. And so anyway, who's the director of S.W.O.R.D.? 2, who is in the witness protection? Again, I don't think that's an important question. 3, why does Agnes have no ID? Remember, it wasn't just Agnes. There were others as well, including Dottie and a couple of others. 4, how did Wanda get Vision's body? Again, I don't think she does have Vision's body. I think that's just, I think this is a manifestation. I don't think that's literally Vision's body. 5, who is editing the broadcast? Again, I don't think the broadcast is being edited. I think while Wanda is immersed in her fantasy, the show is being broadcast. Whenever she's pulled out of her fantasy and she becomes self-aware of what's going on and she's pulled out of her fantasy, the show stops. I don't think anybody's editing it. 6, the overall question, what caused all this to happen? Oh, Wanda's grief. Wanda's grief caused all that happened. Maybe. Unless Nightmare is behind it, or, Mephisto, or somebody else is behind it. Maybe this was Doctor Strange did it. Maybe this fantasy was Doctor Strange's well-intentioned attempt to help Wanda heal, and then it went horribly wrong. I don't think that's what happened, but I'm just throwing, possibilities out there. All right. 3 of 3. Been following you since your Winter Soldier discussion at AMC. That is going back a ways. First time submitting a super chat. So happy for your success and new house. Well, thank you so much, Chronic. I appreciate that. And yeah, again, I'm going to be very interested to see, my theory about it's all about the edited version that everybody outside is seeing. I believe that is simply a matter of when Wanda's immersed in her fantasy, it's broadcasting this idyllic fantasy world, this show of WandaVision. But the moment she's pulled out, the moment she sees a beekeeper, the moment Vision starts catching on that something's wrong, the moment she has to confront Monica Rambo, then Wanda herself is pulled out of her fantasy. And the show stops. So that's my guess. We will find out where it goes. Anyway, thanks so much, Chronic Demise, for sending that in. It's good to have you here. And thanks for watching ever since the AMC days. I appreciate that, man. All right, next up. Ryan Loner writes, the music for the end credits is Jimi Hendrix's Voodoo Child. As soon as it started playing, some of you will get this reference. As soon as that music started playing, my wife goes, is Hulk Hogan about to come out? Only people really, really well-versed in professional wrestling will understand that reference. But yeah, as soon as that Jimi Hendrix music started playing, Anne went, is Hulk Hogan about to come out? Anyway, is Voodoo Child. If I don't meet you in this world, I'll meet you in the next one. And don't be late. I don't take no for an answer. See, I believe that because when you look at the other songs, and a bunch of you guys in the live chat, Hollywood Symbolic Gamers writing, Hollywood Wanda. Of course, it was Hollywood Hulk Hogan. NW, that's right, guys. It was the NWO. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yes. When you listen to the other songs that have been played, there's been some symbolic meaning in the lyrics. Somebody just wrote in saying they thought that Jimi Hendrix song, because it's called Voodoo Child, that was proof that Vision is a zombie. And I don't believe that at all. But I do believe what you're saying here, Ryan Loner, is that when you really actually look at the lyrics, it's fitting what's going on there, right? If I don't meet you in this world, I'll meet you in the next one. And don't be late. I don't take no for an answer. I think there's something more to that. But again, I don't think that was definitive proof that Vision himself was a zombie. That's just kind of my take on it at any rate. All right, next up. Marie Seifring writes, who is FBI agent Jimmy Woo looking for in witness protection? Thanks. Again, we don't know. And right now, my sense is it's not important. I really don't think the fact that there was a person in witness protection that Jimmy was going to see is somehow pertinent to the story. I really do think that was simply the plot device used to get Jimmy there, thus getting S.W.O.R.D. involved, thus getting Monica Rambo there. So I really do think it was a simple plot device, and I don't think the answer to that question has any relevance to the overall story of WandaVision. I don't know that. That's just my guess as a fan speculating, but we'll see. All right, next up. Thanks for that, Marie. Sam Fisher writes, heard a theory that Monica already has powers based on going through 3 walls and being fine. I think if she does, she doesn't know, like Willis in Unbreakable. Maybe, because, I brought up earlier, Sam, I just brought up earlier that, okay, that would have killed Monica. Like, if Monica's a regular human being, if you're a regular human being, if you literally get thrown through, like your body gets thrown through the wall of a house, not just flimsy drywall, but I mean through the wall of a house, and then through a brick wall, and then through another layered wall, and then thrown 500 yards out through a force, you're going to be dead. Your internal organs, your bones are going to be shattered. You're going to be dead. You're dead. That's not what they did, though. I'm right, Sheila. So maybe that's just because Wanda didn't want to kill her per se. She just wanted to get rid of her. And maybe that's why it didn't break all of her bones and kill her. Maybe she already has inherited powers that she got from messing around with the toys when she was younger with Captain Marvel. So maybe she already has, maybe she gleaned a little bit of power there. Maybe. I'm not against that theory. I don't know that I buy into it quite, but I wouldn't be surprised if they say that, but we'll see. All right, next up. Your soul will be mine writes, hey, John, I'm an avid listener of your show all the way from Little O, New Zealand. Good to have you here. Your professionalism is unmatched, and I just wanted to thank you. I don't know how professional I am. I certainly do have fun, though. I certainly do enjoy these things and have a really good time. And thank you so much for joining us. And thank you. It's always nice when somebody wants to write in just to say something kind. Thank you very much, Your Soul. I appreciate that very much. And congrats on everybody in New Zealand having absolutely zeroed COVID cases right now. You guys did an unbelievable job with that. Kudos to all of you guys down there. All right. Murray Reich writes, this may sound like a bit too nitpicky, but why are they still calling it the blip when it was just a gag in Spider-Man 2? Kind of makes me go, really? I don't know that it was just a gag in Spider-Man 2. I don't know that it was just a gag in Spider-Man 2. I mean, that seems to be, in the MCU world, the official naming of the decimation was the blip, which I think sounds stupid, and I don't use that terminology. I call it the snap, the unsnapping, or the dusting, the undusting. I don't call it the blip. But it does sound like that within the world of the MCU, that's the official name for it. And so I don't think it was just some gag in the second one. At least I don't think so. Anyway, next up, Alex Dangour writes, one of two. Given the multiverse storyline that links WandaVision and Spider-Man 3, it's interesting that WandaVision takes place quite a while before Far From Home. This takes place a month after the blip. In Far From Home, Betty says when they returned, they had to retake the school year. So Far From Home takes place near a year after. That's interesting. You know what? You're absolutely right about that. I hadn't thought about that. I had not considered that. Because you're right. In Far From Home, after the undusting, a bunch of time passes before the events of the movie begin. Which means that by the time we get to the action in Spider-Man 3 or Spider-Man 2, by the time we get to the main story and the action of Spider-Man Far From Home, the events of WandaVision would have already happened. Yeah. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I hadn't considered that. What are the ramifications of that? I'm not sure. I will have to think about that. All right. Thanks a lot for sending that in, man. Again, that's new food for thought. New food for thought. All right. Let's see where we're at. Mr. 47 writes, the blip/snap is an effective tool in creating drama for these few MCU stories post-Endgame. And so far, they haven't wasted the scenes. It's still haunting. It really is. And again, you go right from the beginning, shot. Monica undusting. It's still incredibly powerful. Seriously, it's been a while since we saw Endgame. And that visual effect of the dusting still stirs emotions, even when it's being used for somebody being undusted. It's a powerful visual emotional cue. seeing that dusting effect, whether it's the dusting effect or in reverse, is still a powerful emotional visual cue. And you feel it. Like I remember when that episode started last night, I'm watching, they started with the undusting of Monica. That was a powerful, powerful moment. And it stirs a lot of emotions. And it's truly is. And I think it's going to be that way for a while. So yeah, I'm with you on that. Okay. Hey guys, I'm going to do one more question and then I'm going to take another break. And you're saying, John, it's only been an hour since your last break. I know, but I'm not going to lie to you. We've been going for 2.5 hours. My throat's starting to get a bit sore, and I want to make sure I don't push it too much, so I'm going to take a little bit of a break just to let the throat rest for a few minutes, then we'll come back and we'll keep going. All right, but we'll do this one more first before we do. From Sam Fisher, who writes, is Dominic West in this show? I don't remember hearing that he was. Anyway, I remember that being a rumor at one point. If he is, he might be playing Wu's witness. I suppose. Again, I think the witness is inconsequential. And I don't remember hearing anything about Dominic West being in it. I mean, we've heard lots of things, like we've heard Evan Peters was going to pop up in it. We've heard that like about 6 months ago. So I expect we're going to see Evan Peters, but I don't think he's going to be Quicksilver. I think we're going to see... we heard about Randall Park. We heard about Kat Dennings, but I don't remember hearing one about Dominic West. I don't remember. Underscore in the live chat is saying Dominic Westview. See what they did there? See the little play on words there? Yeah. So I don't remember hearing one about Dominic West being in there, but I don't know. Maybe you guys said, hey, send me a link to something if you got it, but I don't remember hearing anything about that. Okay, guys. I'm going to take another 5 to 10 minute break here. If you will indulge me for a few minutes. Again, I'm going to rest up the voice. I'm going to grab something quick, a quick bite to eat here. See if Ann needs me to lift any boxes anywhere, because we just moved in this morning. So actually we didn't finish the move. The movers didn't leave till 5 p.m. tonight. Lots to do around here, but I'm going to go rest my voice for a second, use the bathroom probably, because I've been drinking a bunch of Diet Pepsi, grab a quick bite of something, and I will be back in the next 5 to 10 minutes. So hang tight with me, everybody. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Go ahead and talk amongst yourselves. See you in just a couple of minutes. All right, guys, and we are back. Thank you so much again for your patience and indulgence. I'm going to let you guys know, I'm probably only going to be able to go for about, and we started at 5:30. It's getting close to 8:30 now. I'm probably only going to be able to go till about 9 o'clock, mostly because, maybe even a little bit before that. Like I said, we just moved today. The movers left at 5 p.m. today, and there's a lot of work to do in the house, and right now my wife Ann is doing it by herself. And my wife Ann loves our fan community. She's like, no, do the WandaVision video. She's totally good with it, but she's out there trying to get everything kind of settled by herself, and I'm feeling really damn guilty. So we're gonna keep going for a little while now. I hope you got, but when we do cut the show a little bit short, although 3.5 hours isn't all that short. But when we do cut it short, don't worry. I'm going to get all the other questions answered in a companion video that'll go up tomorrow. So we'll do a part 2 of this video tomorrow, and every single question that gets sent in will get answered either in the rest of today's show or when we do a companion video for it tomorrow, if you guys will indulge me that a little bit. I'm just trying to get back on track here. Okay, let's not waste any more time then and get back to your observations. Kayla MacArthur writes, "Hey John, love the show. Thank you so much, my friend. When Jimmy Woo was writing on the whiteboard, did you see they had scrolls written in the white? I did not notice that. Really? Hold a second. Jimmy Woo, WandaVision scrolls. Let me see this. Let me bring it up here. Let me see if I can get the whiteboard. Okay, so there's the whiteboard. Let's bring this up here. Why hexagonal shape? Why sitcom? Same space. Is Vision alive? Oh, this is why. It's right here. Oh, okay, cool. Because if you guys can see my mouse, my whole attention, where our attention has always been focused, is right in this area here, right? Where he's actually writing. Same time and space, is Vision alive? That's where all of our attention has been. I did not, even though I watched it twice, notice that part. So he's asking, is it Skrulls? Which means the government is generally completely aware of the Skrulls at this point. So they're completely familiar and aware of the Skrulls. Okay, that's kind of interesting. Unless this is a reference to the 80s film Krull. Is it Krulls? But no, that's probably saying, I never noticed that. So no, to answer your question, I did not notice that they wrote Skrulls on it. I'm not noticing it until right now, and I'm glad you noticed it and put it on my radar. I'm going to go look into that a little bit more. Thanks for pointing that out, Caleb. All right, next up. Texas Reaper 92 writes, how they added the snap being undone was amazing. Thoughts? Also, what if Wanda does turn out to be the villain? I doubt it, though. Great episode. Hey, listen, number one, we've covered what we think about the snap being undone at the beginning. Beautiful, powerful, awesome way to start that show. Beautifully done. And I've been thinking since 6 months ago that Wanda will be the villain of the show. And ultimately, this show will end very badly, and that Wanda will go on to be the antagonist of Doctor Strange 2. Again, I don't know that's going to happen. It's very well could be they'll go the traditional route and Wanda's a hero, and they very well could do all of that. But right now, that's still what I'm thinking. I'm thinking she's the villain. And that's a powerful thing for the MCU to do, if that is indeed what it is they are doing. All right. Thanks for that, Texas Reaper. Next up, Ethan Holgate writes, I loved this episode. Absolutely fantastic. Way to carry the story on further. They couldn't have any better, in my opinion. Still wondering who the neighbors are, though. Yeah, I mean, I do think we're going to find out more. And not just about Agnes or Dottie, but I think we're going to find out more about more of the people there. I also, listen, by the way, don't overlook Herb. Right? Let me see if I can find this. WandaVision. Do not overlook Herb, because you got to remember this, that we're all focusing on Agnes, and for good reason. For good reason, a lot of us are focusing on Agnes, and we should be focusing on Agnes. But when Agnes needed to confide and discuss what's going on with somebody, she was talking to Herb. And when Herb was about to reveal to Vision what was actually going on, Agnes, being played by Catherine Hahn, didn't look at him threatening. It's like, don't you dare say what you're about to say. She looked at him terrified, like, oh God, please don't say anything. You're going to kill us all if you reveal to Vision. Like, she was terrified. And so, look, I'm not saying Herb is a big main player here. I'm just saying that I think we could find out more about him in this, and maybe he plays a little bit bigger of a role than we think. I'm not thinking he's a big major player. I'm just suggesting maybe there's a little bit more to him than what we are, than what we're going to see, than what we've seen so far. All right. Thanks for that, Ethan. Next up, Ethan also writes, Jimi Hendrix song at the end was badass. Again, all I could see is Hollywood Hulk Hogan coming out. Anyway, just wanted to see if, the rest of the NWO was going to run out behind him. All right. The Last Shady Walking writes, man, Wanda is scary. Elizabeth Olsen is amazing. She is an Oscar caliber actress. She's absolutely fantastic. By the way, don't overlook Paul Bettany for how good Paul Bettany's been in this as well. But yeah, the way she goes from the 50s, happy, jovial Wanda to totally badass, scary Wanda, just like that, completely impressive. All right, Jacob Silvers writes, I love that they brought back Darcy. So do I. I was so happy when I found out they were bringing in Kat Dennings. Darcy was a character that I always wanted the MCU to bring back, but I didn't think they would. I love this character. Now, I will admit, I found her character a little annoying in Thor 2, but to be fair, I found a lot of things about Thor 2 annoying. I don't think Thor 2 is the worst movie in the world, but it's really so far behind the original Thor. Like, it's just not anywhere near as good as the original Thor. But so I found her a little bit annoying that, but I found everything annoying in Thor 2. I love this character from her very, very first appearance in the first Thor movie. And I was super happy to see that she was coming back. So I'm totally with you on that, Jacob. Next up, Preston Bell writes, one of two. So your prediction was right. Wanda seemingly is controlling everything. I'm not taking any victory laps yet. Like I said, I think they revealed that Wanda is in control a little too early, which leads me to believe maybe there's a chance my theory is wrong. Again, it's still my theory. I still hold on to the theory that Wanda is in control of everything. She is the antagonist of this story. But again, they just revealed it so early, it makes me wonder if there's not another twist to come. Just saying that. So at this point, it looks like Wanda is the antagonist and Sword is the protagonist, or the other way around. Also, I liked how they brought back Kat Dennings as she already exists in the MCU. Thanks for doing these videos, John, and hope the move is going well. The move is going pretty well. Although right now, Anne is the only one doing the move. I'm the one in here talking WandaVision, so I get to have more fun. I don't know that Sword is going to be the protagonist. I'm still thinking Vision is going to be the protagonist. I'm still thinking at the end of the day, Vision is going to be the protagonist of the story. And I think it's going to come down to a very, very tragic end where Vision has to confront Wanda, and it's going to be bad. And it's going to be ugly. And it's going to lead us into a whole lot of an even darker side of Wanda. Again, I don't know this. I'm just guessing, just like everybody else is guessing. But that's kind of where I think they're going with this right now. We'll find out. All right, thanks for that, Preston. Next up, Ryan Holman writes, any chance Monica being thrown out could give her powers from the comics? I doubt it. I don't think Wanda is going to accidentally give somebody superpowers. But again, like right now, I doubt that's going to happen in this series. They'll probably go there at some point, definitely. But whether it's going to happen in WandaVision, I have my doubts. But I don't know. But I doubt, even if it does happen in this series, I doubt it's because Wanda just threw her out. I don't. If that's the case, then Agent Franklin is going to have superpowers too, which he's probably not. We're probably never going to see Agent Franklin again. All right. Dirk Walker writes, I bet Guy in Witness Protection is Agnes's husband, and there is more to the two of them than it seems. Well, listen, Ralph not showing up at all definitely leads me to believe that there's something very significant about Ralph. Now, what some people will be very quick to remind you of is that in the comics, Ralph is an alias of Mephisto. That doesn't mean that's what they're doing in the show. As a matter of fact, I don't think that's what they're doing in the show. But that is a valid point to raise. I think the very fact that we've never seen him, even at the children's fundraiser, we didn't see Ralph. She's constantly referencing Ralph. We never see Ralph. Maybe that's because Ralph doesn't actually exist, or maybe because there's something bigger going on. Don't know. We will find out soon enough. All right, next up. Marie Seifring writes, Wanda keeping house with a dead Vision turned grim really fast. Sam Raimi will have a lot of fun with the horror genre and Doctor Strange too. Yeah, again, I don't think that's actually Vision's corpse. I don't think anything about that scene actually suggested that was Vision's corpse. Maybe it was. Maybe it was. But I never got the feeling that's what they were implying. I just think they were showing that she's got this manifestation of Vision, but when she's pulled out of her fantasy, she looks at him, all she sees is the tragedy. She sees dead Vision, you know? But we've seen that in a million TV shows and movies before. So I don't think it's anything new. I don't think it's anything new, but you never know. We'll see. But even without that being Vision's corpse, this show turns dark real quick. And again, maybe it's all about the dead robot sex. Who knows? Listen, I'm not judging. I'm not here to judge anybody. I've never tried dead robot sex, right? So I can't condemn it. I'm not judging. You do you, Wanda. You do you. If you like the dead robot sex, you do you. All right, next up. Preston Bell writes, or where'd he go? There it is. Okay. So the fresh corpse of Vision after he gets killed by Thanos is symbolic of Wanda's past that she is trying to block out. Monica unfortunately brought it back with her mention of Ultron. See, I much more believe that. I much more believe that. And again, that is a mechanism we've seen used many, many times in a lot of movies, a lot of TV shows. That you see something that is a representation of something you regret or something that you fear or something that you wish or whatever. And then the character snaps out of it and they see what's really there. And I really think that was more what's going on rather than, actual zombie, dead corpse walking Weekend at Bernie's Vision. So, but then again, maybe we'll find out in episode 5. That's exactly what it is. We will find out soon enough. All right, next up. Dark Fury X writes, hey, John and Ann. Ann is obviously not with me here today. She was earlier, but she's off unpacking us. Again, I have to emphasize again, we literally just moved today. The movers left at 5 p.m., which was just 3.5 hours ago. And I've been doing this show for 3 hours now. They literally left just a half hour before we started. That's why everything is all disheveled behind me. You can see just how disheveled everything is behind me at the moment. We will get that all fixed up for the John Campea Show on Monday. But Ann is out unpacking things, kind of where I should probably be. And I will go and join her shortly to make sure I help her unpack. But for right now, we still got more questions to get through. Big fan of the show from the UK. Thank you very much. Ever since I saw your Man of Steel review in 2013, over under 60%, Doctor Strange will appear in the last episode of WandaVision, setting up Multiverse of Madness way under. I don't think he is. And again, Multiverse of Madness isn't coming for a long time, and it's not the next movie in this story. The next movie in this story is Spider-Man 3. And so not only would I take under 60%, I would take under 20. Not impossible. I'm not saying zero. But yeah, 60% is really way too high. I would go under 20%. Now, again, if Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness was coming out in 6 months, let's say Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness was, or even less than that. Let's say it was coming out in October. Okay. If Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness was coming in October, I would think there would be a much higher chance that Doctor Strange could appear in it. Because it's so far off and another movie is taking place in between them, I think it lowers the chances. So again, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying the chances are zero. I'm just saying I think it's low and I'll be surprised if it does. So I will take very, very safely, I will take under under 60%. Now, some people have been pointing out to me when I've mentioned this before that, well, you know, Doctor Strange is going to be in Spider-Man 3. True, but I don't, again, there's no point in setting up Multiverse of Madness when you got another movie coming out. So again, I just think it's very unlikely. Not impossible, and there's lots of things we think are unlikely that happen. So that could happen still, but if you're going to ask me, I'm going to take well under 60%. All right, thanks for that, Dark Fury. Next up, Ismail Y writes, "Hey, John. Best episode so far. I agree. I think this was the best episode, but it was only the best episode because of the groundwork I think that episodes 1 through 3 laid. Like on its own, episode 4 is a good episode. But coming after episodes 1, 2, and 3, it is a mind-blowing episode. On its own, decent episode. Good episode. If you had never seen anything of WandaVision and you just turned it on to watch episode 4, you'd be like, hey, that's pretty good. But it's when you watch it sequentially after episodes 1, 2, and 3 that it really finds its power. At any rate, I think Wanda is afraid that Vision will turn against her once he realizes what's really going on. Thoughts? I don't think she's worried about him turning against her. Remember, the main person she is trying to fool is herself. She is trying to lose herself in this fantasy world to protect herself from her grief and her pain. She can't be immersed in that fantasy world if this manifestation of Vision doesn't buy into it. Whenever Vision starts to doubt what's going on and starts to question, something's wrong here, she snaps it back into place. Because him falling out of the fantasy means she falls out of the fantasy. So I don't think she's worried about him turning on her. She's worried about him becoming aware of the fact that he's not really Vision. That to me right now is Wanda's number one fear. Not that Vision will turn against her, but that Vision will realize he's not actually Vision. And the world that he lives in with Wanda isn't actually real. That is her biggest fear. That's her big fear. All right. Bit Clarky writes, one of two. Hey, John and Ann, who's not with me right now. Hope the move went well. It's still ongoing, actually. And welcome to your new studio. Thank you so much. Really like this episode. Time flew. Love seeing the undusting up close. VFX were on point. Yeah, again, we talked just a few minutes ago about the power of that visual image. The visual image of the dusting, even if it's in reverse, still stirs a lot of emotions. It takes us back to seeing Peter Parker going, I don't want to go, Mr. Stark. And everybody crying in the theaters, boo-hoo. And I just sat there, he's coming back in like 15 minutes, right? So it's no big, but anyway, it still stirs a lot of powerful emotions. And the beginning of this was definitely a reminder of that. Anyway, 2 of 2. If Wanda turns out to be the antagonist, who around would be able to go against her? And if not, who do you think is pulling the strings? Well, again, I'm completely on board with her being the antagonist. Not 100% convinced of that. We still have a lot more shows to go, a lot more episodes. But again, I think it's going to come down to I think it's Vision. Vision is stupid powerful. Even a made-up fantasy. Like, remember, even though he's just a manifestation of her doing, he can still fly. He still has all of his power. And I think it could come down to him confronting Wanda. And I think, again, this is a pure guess, a pure speculation. I think the show is about to pivot to being a Vision-centric show for the next couple of episodes. I don't know that. Again, I'm just guessing. I'm just theorizing here. I'm not convinced of that either, but we will see. We will absolutely see. All right. Thanks for sending that in, Bit Clarky. All right. Next up. Shannon Brian sends in a $50 super chat. Thank you, Shannon, for supporting the channel on that level. Really appreciate that. And Shannon writes, I just wanted to say thank you for following your calling. Your passion is providing people with a lot of joy during difficult times. God bless. Oh, thank you. Again, it's always so nice when somebody just wants to write in and just say something kind and encouraging, especially when they're being that supportive. Now, listen, it is... Rob and I talk about this a lot. It is our absolute privilege to be able to come on and talk movies with our fellow film fan community members. It is an absolute joy. And to get in here, like, even though I am operating right now, you can probably tell my eyes have massive bags under them right now. You can probably tell I am operating on 3 hours sleep. I have been working, like, doing a lot physically for the last 5 days, trying to get the house ready and trying to get ready to move in here. And then we moved today, 3 hours sleep last night. But you know what? It didn't matter. It was no question. I wanted to talk about WandaVision with everybody. I wanted to get on here and talk about WandaVision. So seriously, thank you, Shannon, for being a supporter of this community. Thank you for being a member of this community. And thank you to all you guys to allow me to be a part of this community. It's awesome. And it's always great that we get to have this kind of fun together. Oh, Shannon, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. Thank you for sending that in. All right, next up. J Meister 25 writes, so half the world disappeared and then came back. We see chaos, disbelief, shock in a hospital. Did Marvel sidestep their no death after snap issue? The hospital scene was fantastic indeed. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. Did Marvel sidestep their no death after snap issue? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. What do you mean by no death after snap issue? Anyway, getting back to your thing about the scene itself. The scene was beautiful. Not only because I focused a lot on, we focused a lot on the opening shot of the undusting of Monica Rambo, but it wasn't just that. It's how it all played out after that. The way the scene in the hospital captured that mayhem, captured the confusion, the fear, the chaos, right? The way it captured all of that, coming after that powerful, powerful moment of her unsnapping and coming back to existence with that powerful visual image. It's a big deal. It's a really, really big deal. Okay, let's move on here. CJ Legend 89 writes, confirmed, the rumor Endgame credit scene of Wanda stealing Vision's body was deleted, so us seeing Vision alive would still be a mystery. I don't think anything's confirmed, to be honest with you. I think there's a lot of shenanigans going on. I'll be honest with you. I've discarded that completely. And I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying I've discarded that completely. And again, it is absolutely possible Wanda's walking around with a toy corpse of Vision that she's artificially putting fake life into. Like, Vision isn't alive, because if he was alive, Wanda's got nothing to be upset about, or to be hiding from grief or pain or anything like that. So he's not alive. I don't think it's actually his body, though. I don't think it's actually his body. So I don't know. That's just me, though. All right. Bit Clarky writes, interesting to hear Darcy mention cosmic microwave background, perhaps a nod to the connection to the multiverse. Well, I mean, everything right now in the MCU is kind of a nod to the multiverse. I mean, we've got a Doctor Strange movie coming that is literally called the Multiverse of Madness. All right. So kind of everything right now in here is either directly or somewhat directly connected to multiverse. So that's not a surprise. And that's not something that should catch any of us off guard. What I believe is even more interesting is it carries a lot of other potential ramifications. Now, look, I don't believe I don't believe this stuff is the literal cosmic stuff that causes Fantastic Four, but you are talking about cosmic radiation. There's some similarity there to what a Fantastic Four reference could be. You're talking about when they say it's radiation harkening back to the beginning of the Big Bang. Well, where did they say the Infinity Stones come from? From the Big Bang itself. So it was a one moment reference that offered up a lot of possibilities about what it could be conjuring images of, or stories of, or connections to, and none of them could be legit, or all of them could be legit. I mean, it was really, really, really smartly done. It was really, really smartly done, Bit Clarky. All right, next up. Greg Scott Bailey writes, Agent Wu actually learned the card trick. Yeah, we talked about that a lot. He saw Scott doing Ant-Man and Wasp. Great chemistry with Darcy and Agent Wu. You know what? That's just the thing. Not only do I love Kat Dennings and Randall Park in this they were great on screen together. There's a weird awkwardness about both of them. And both of their characters' awkwardness is very different from the others. And they both work together really well. And I agree with you, Greg. I really did enjoy their chemistry together. All right, Greg also writes, and that cold opening of the unsnap, brief but important look into the chaos of, while a good thing, bringing everybody back. Yep. Because when we watch Endgame, we didn't see anything happen. We saw Hulk undo the snap, and then Hawkeye looks down at his phone, and he sees his wife calling him. How his wife's phone came back, I have no idea. So she unsnapped, and her phone just happened to be sitting there, all charged up. Did Hawkeye for 5 years keep her phone plugged in, making sure it's nice and charged up, batteries up there at 100%, just in case wifey comes back and wants to give me a call? So he kept her plan alive, her Verizon family plan, kept her on the family plan for 5 years after she died, and kept the phone plugged in, just in case she snapped back into existence at the very same spot he was keeping her phone so she could pick it up and give him a call. That's delightful. That's delightful. Anyway, that's just me. But you're right. It was really, really good the way they did all that in the show. All right. Greg Scott Bailey also writes, Ralph could possibly be Agent Wood's missing informant since they didn't show his dossier when they identified a few of the people. Well, listen, they couldn't have possibly identified him because why? Ralph doesn't appear in the show, right? Since Ralph doesn't appear in the show, Sword would have no way of identifying him. Like, no way to identify him. He hasn't appeared in the show. Only people who have appeared in the show that Sword could actually get a visual on and then cross-reference their pictures and images with everybody else. Now, good. Of course, Ralph could be the missing thing, but again, I really feel right now, and I could be completely wrong. I wouldn't bet any money on this, but my feeling is that the missing informant is completely inconsequential. Again, I think that was just the plot device to get them all there. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't mean anything. It's not a big deal. Or maybe it is. We'll find out. All right, Sam Fisher writes, I don't trust the director of Sword. There is something super smarmy about him. I also think there was a Hydra agent with the same name in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I said this before, and I'm going to stick by this. I do not believe there's anything Hydra going on here. Hydra has been almost as overused and overdone as the Infinity Stones themselves. Like, everything is Hydra, Hydra, Hydra. At least it had been, right? How many times have the heroes stopped Hydra and finished Hydra, and then they just kept coming back? I lost count. So I really don't think there's anything Hydra involved. But that doesn't mean there couldn't be some duplicitousness about this new... I mean, who knows? Maybe Maria didn't actually die of cancer. Maybe this guy somehow offed her and made it look like cancer that killed her again. Because he wanted to be the director of Sword, and now Monica's back and he sees that as a threat. I mean, that could be at play here. That could totally be at play. We'll find out. All right, thanks for that, Sam. Next up, guys, I can only do a couple more. My throat is going, and like I should be... We moved today. I very much should be out there helping my wife unpack. And I feel kind of bad that I'm sitting here having fun talking to everybody about WandaVision. And meanwhile, my wife is out there working very, very hard trying to get our home unpacked and settled for us to enjoy. So I should probably get out there and help her. But I'm going to do a couple more here with your guys' indulgence. Where are we at? Oh, yeah. Matt Ford 53 writes, Wanda has probably suffered the most loss in the MCU. Completely agree. I still don't think it's just her doing this, but I don't blame her if she's just broke. Her tragedy is the main character of the show. 100%, as Anne would say. 100%, Matt. This is the ultimate conclusion of a lifetime of tragedy. Wanda Maximoff's life has been a life of tragedy. And again, when you saw her at the end of Endgame, and we said this a few times already today, but when you see her at the end of Endgame, talking to Hawkeye, that was a broken person. That was not the same Wanda from Civil War making paprika with Vision That was not the same person. That was a broken person at the end of Endgame talking to Hawkeye. And it really is. This tragedy has just been with her entire life. And I don't think you're far off by saying that Wanda's grief, I would even say, not more than Wanda's tragedy, Wanda's grief is really the main character of this show. One way or the other, it's Wanda's grief. So I think that's a really good observation, Matt. All right, next up. Big Boy Trent writes, I read a theory that all the people in Westview are just dead people that Wanda is using as puppets, like how she's using Vision. If that ends up being true, that's freaky and morbid. And again, I don't think she's using Vision as a dead puppet. I don't believe that's actually Vision's literal corpse. I don't believe that. I could be convinced of it in episode 5, maybe, but right now I don't believe that. And I don't think any of the rest of the people are dead either, because if everybody else in there was dead, then when SWORD did the background check on everybody, they would say, this is so-and-so and so-and-so, but they're deceased. Bum, bum, bum. Right? That would become a very big deal. Like SWORD, when looking up all this information, getting these big dossiers on their character, oh, we forgot that they were dead. Like, no. They would know that they were dead. So I think that... I think that pretty much undermines the theory that everybody in that town is dead. Unless the researchers at SWORD are absolutely terrible at their job. Like really, really terrible at their job. All right, thanks for sharing that, big boy. All right, next up. DJ writes, I think the finale will be Wanda as the main villain versus Vision, the hero. That's kind of where I'm leaning right now too. I think this is going to come down to Vision having to try to stop Wanda, and it's not going to go well. Trying to save the people of Westview from Wanda's control. She won't want to hurt him. The fight then causes her reality to shatter. Yep. She'll lose Vision again. Third time. She'll lose her children. Not good. And that will take a broken Wanda and take it to a whole nother level. Again, I've been saying since episode 1, I don't think this show's going to end well. I don't think this show's going to end well. Bad things are coming, ladies and gentlemen. Bad things are coming. That's what I mean. So I completely agree with you, DJ. I am with you on that 100%. I do believe the show's about to get a little bit more Vision centric. I could be wrong about that, but I feel like it. We're going to follow Vision a little bit more closely now as he starts to put the pieces of the puzzle together that he's not real. He's going to figure this out like Ben Reilly in Spider-Man, realizing he's not actually the real Peter Parker. Ben Reilly had been going on his whole life thinking he was Peter Parker. For those of you who know this particular Spider-Man story, Ben Reilly thought he was Peter Parker. He thought he was the real Spider-Man, only to find out he was a clone and he wasn't real. And he went on to become Scarlet Spider. Anyway, I'm giving you a little bit of Spider-Man history here, but I think this is we're going to follow Vision as he starts to figure out he's not actually Vision. He's not real. And we're going to see. We're going to see. All right. Next up, Jackmaster Nord writes, Nord is pronounced no-red. Oh, not Nord, one of two. There you go. Okay. No-red. No-red writes, the drone is S57. Vision first appeared in issue 57. You know what? That's interesting because there have been a lot of instances in the MCU where they've dropped random numbers that actually coincide with certain issues of comic books. So that wouldn't surprise me at all, No Red. That wouldn't surprise me at all. Thanks for dropping that little bit of info in there. Okay. Let's see. Your soul will be mine writes, over under 10% Magneto shows up at the end. Retcon to be mutant. No, 0. No, that I'll go 0. That I will go absolute 0. They're not going to introduce Magneto and the mutants in a Disney Plus show. So that very, very rarely will I give something a flat out 0. That one I'll give a flat out 0. All right. Hamaz Hussein writes, I have one really picky, pedantic nitpick. In Far From Home, the blip back is shown as an instant blip back, but in WandaVision, it shows the dust slowly rebuild. I'll be honest with you, I don't recall. It's been a beat since I've watched Spider-Man Far From Home, and I do not recall if they just appear, if they don't just, I can't remember if they just appear or if they do indeed de-dust. Do you guys in the live chat remember that? Like I said, it's been a beat since I've watched Spider-Man Far From Home, even though I do like the movie quite a bit. And Wait and Render is saying, nope, it's the same. They went back and rewatched. But then Andrew Dunn is saying they pretty much just appear. Tom Guyver is saying at the basketball game, they just immediately appeared. So no, they're saying they just appeared. Yeah, I don't know. I gotta think about that. All right, I'll go back and check that out. Thanks for that. All right, Mazumia writes, wow, the beginning of the episode was incredible. What a way to start it. Showing her coming back from the snap and going into more detail than in Spider-Man Far From Home about the panic of people returning. Yeah. Again, we've gone on this a lot today, but it's so true. Just that opening moment of the visual of the dusting, even in reverse, is still a powerful, powerful visual for us, right? It still stirs those emotions we felt when we saw the dusting happening in Infinity War. It's still a powerful visual. Probably the most powerful visual the MCU's ever had. And they used it to complete perfection. Absolute complete perfection, Mazumia. And I'm just with you on that completely. All right, guys. Last topic today that I will take. Then do not worry. I will take every single question that got sent in and we will address all the rest of them on a companion video tomorrow. I need to get out there and start unpacking with my wife. Not to mention my voice is about to go. We're coming up on 3.5 hours that we've been doing the show. So I'm going to need to wrap this up here. Javier Riaz 405 writes, over under 50% Monica Rambo gets her photon powers during this show. I think it's confirmed she'll be in Captain Marvel 2. Of that, I have no doubt. Maybe then. Fan of the show. Hope moving day went well for you. We're still in the midst of moving day. I will go over 15%, but I would still say well under 50. You know, so 50% is that line between probable and not probable. And I would say it's still not probable. But 15% is a really low number. I think it is a much bigger chance that they will do exactly what you just said. I think we'll see her come into her powers in Captain Marvel 2. That's where I think that's more likely to happen. They're going to establish her character in WandaVision, and then they're going to feed her into Captain Marvel 2, and that's where I think that they'll do that. I think that's where they'll do that. So that's my thoughts on that. Okay, guys, listen. For everybody else, this 3.5 hours has flown by. From the Wonder One, a fan of Peanuts, Mitchell Pereira, Jord, MCHG, Kazam0, and everybody else who sent in a question for this show today. Do not worry. I'm going to pick up on these tomorrow. Probably in the afternoon. I'm going to pick up on these. I'm going to get through every single question that got sent in, and we are going to address all of them that you got sent in part 2 of our WandaVision spoiler discussion tomorrow. I planned on going longer tonight, but again, like I said, today's been moving day, and I should be out there helping to unpack. So that's really what I should be going to do. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for being here and allowing me to geek out about WandaVision Season 1, Episode 4 with you guys. Can't wait for the next one. And by the way, besides just doing the companion video to this tomorrow, to part 2 of our spoiler discussion tomorrow, where I get to all the rest of the questions that got sent in, don't forget the John Campea Show returns on Monday. We're back. We had a show on Monday, but we've gone 4 days without one, obviously because I've had to get ready for the move and, you know, getting the renovations on the house finished and ready to go. But Monday, the John Campea Show returns with me and Robert Meyer Burnett. Can't wait to get to that too. Guys, thank you everybody for joining in here and joining me on tonight's show. Guys, special thank you to all you guys who sent in the questions, thoughts, theories, opinions on it. Number 1, because you gave us incredibly fun things to talk about. But number 2, you supported this channel as you did it. And all of us involved here with the show, thank you guys very, very much for that. Okay, guys, that will do it for me for now. Thanks a lot for everything. Do the 4 main things, would you please? Stay smart, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and please take care of the people around you. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.